It is WrestleMania 41, night 2. The night that we can look at if you have anything negative to say. The Rock's thinking 5-6 steps ahead, okay? He's thinking so far ahead that you can't even catch up to where his brain is thinking, okay?
Yeah.
That was WrestleMania night 2, okay? No one left in the stadium as the show ended. Everyone was in that stadium still waiting for Dwayne Johnson, and then the show officially ended, a magical ending. But, ladies and gentlemen, who cares if Dwayne Johnson showed up? With all due respect to all of my Catholic friends out there, this is a weekend where the man himself comes back from the dead. It is the resurrection of Wei Ting himself. He has risen. Here he is. Wei, welcome back.
All of my Catholic friends, I did not say that. Those are the words of one John Pollock and John Pollock alone.
Am I comparing Wei Ting to Jesus Christ? Yes. My Lord and Savior, Wei Ting.
Trust me, you are doing quite fine. John, a pleasure to be back here after what feels like a lifetime away, but really I feel like it's only been about 10 days or so. Nonetheless, I'm sure you've lived plenty of lifetimes over the past week with the amount of output that you and the entire team at Post Wrestling have accomplished. I think the site has never looked better. So, first of all, a huge thank you to you, of course, and everybody on the team, in front of the camera and behind the camera or microphone, for the great job that they've done.
Well, it's a lot of smoke and mirrors just to distract people, so they don't get too curious about when is Wei Ting coming back. I know I've heard privately, Wei, a lot of people they miss you, they want to hear your voice. And what have you been up to over the last 10 days or so?
I guess I've been
reading any books, listening to some music.
Sure, yeah.
See any movies?
Yeah. I've been changing a lot of diapers. I have been trying to manage a 2.5-year-old who's trying to get used to a new person being in the house all the time, and making sure that he's not getting too jealous. And just a lot of things that come with bringing a new person into this world. But I've really truly enjoyed the time off so far. So again, I want to thank you and everybody at the team for providing it. But I'm here, of course, to talk about professional wrestling.
That's right. We're going to get into night 2 of WrestleMania. Wei, you have been extremely preoccupied with real life. Did you get to see any of the first night of WrestleMania? Because I know some people, they would be curious your quick thoughts on the first night as kind of an entree to tonight's follow-up.
I did, yeah. I made time at 1 a.m. I'm doing the night shifts, with the new baby, and with my headphones in and TV, I was able to catch up on night 1, and I thought in general I really liked the main event. I thought it was very well done. I thought also, some of the other standouts, Jade Cargill versus Naomi, I thought was one that I think over-delivered on expectations. Jacob Fatu and LA Knight, another match that I think over-delivered on expectations. I pretty much agreed with, I think, probably yours and Neil's assessment on much of the other matches on the show. I didn't love the finish to Gunther and Jey Uso, but so much of I think that was really crafted around the entrances in the post match that I mean that's probably what most people are going to be leaving with. But all in all, I thought it was an okay show. I don't really know what the reception has been, online towards it, but I thought it was more okay, but led by, I think, a really strong main event.
Yeah, I would say that I think, the general discourse that I saw, I thought it was a pretty underwhelming first night for WrestleMania, in that I think what you looked on paper, it just fell below a lot. I think it was a show that largely was saved by the main event. And I mean, you could, I think, isolate some individual performances as we went over on last night's show, but let's just say after one match into tonight's show, it felt like this was already a much better night. I think you came back for the better night would be my overall assessment of things before we break down everything that's going on here. So as we transition to WrestleMania, I do also want to make mention the The site has just been on fire. Neil Flanagan and Andrew Thompson going hard all weekend long. Did want to mention, maybe we'll talk about this a little later this week, is the passing of a real significant lucha figure in Black Terry. We have a story up on the site on him passing away from cardiac arrest at the age of 72, and just tons of stories all related to everything that's going down in and around Las Vegas. We have also been doing shows up at the Post Wrestling Cafe, which is where you can support the site. Did shows daily on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then today. Barely making it at the count of 9 was Braden Harrington and Davey Portman, who they were up today and they managed to go live at noon Eastern. Barely, but they made it. And then they were going back for night 2. So they have a whole stand and deliver review up here on the free feed as well.
And we'll hear on Tuesday how they're doing after tonight, which I think is these 2-night WrestleMania watch parties. I mean, probably really taking it out of those two. So I look forward to hearing about all their adventures.
Yes, the Travis Scott and Pat McAfee of the Post Wrestling family. I think Braden and Davey.
Which one is Travis Scott and which one is Pat McAfee?
I don't know. You can assign whichever one. So let's move on to WrestleMania. We had a pre-show that was a lot less newsworthy than Saturday's, where they just casually dropping that they're purchasing Triple A, which I think it's going to be the biggest story coming out of this weekend, like over time, because that's one that is not going to be truly realized until months and potentially years to come, is how sizable this story is. And like that was just such a major story. And I'm just in contact with people today and just hearing a lot. It's a lot of questions and not a whole ton of answers of just what this is going to materialize into for AAA, with the immediate focus, this show on June 7th that we'll talk about later, because they're going to do a doubleheader in Los Angeles that day. They're going to do Worlds Collide in the afternoon, and then they're doing Money in the Bank that night at separate venues too in Los Angeles. They're not even booking the same arena for them.
Yeah, major story, one that I really I think is unprecedented, because we've seen WWE buy other companies, of course, but never one from another country in a completely different style of, just a completely different market. I guess I'm one of my bigger curiosities is
when's Vampiro coming to WWE?
There's certainly that. When is he going to get on commentary? The other is, will you be continuing to say Triple A, or will you switch to Triple A like all the others have been?
I'm staying on Triple A. I'm going to stay on that. It's I was waiting for Linda McMahon to come out and announce that they have purchased AAA.
the automobile, the towing company, though.
Yes, potentially with her A1 technology that she would be.
I did see Linda in the crowd.
Was Linda in the crowd? I missed Linda tonight. Mm-hmm. I saw her at the Hall of Fame. I did not see her at tonight's show, not last night. Gotcha. Yeah. Okay, well, interesting. There were some faces in the crowd that were not identified by name, but you could spot. So just catching up on yesterday, Rey Mysterio confirmed a story from the Observer site that it was, in fact, a torn groin that he sustained on Friday. This took him out of the match with Chad Gable on Saturday's show. So that torn groin, obviously, like that's... It was interesting because on the pre-show yesterday, they were saying at the beginning of the pre-show, it's a game time decision, as though it might still happen. Well, a torn groin, I don't think it's going to untear itself within an hour or two. So, I mean, maybe they were just being optimistic that he could gut his way through the match, but opting not to. And now I guess we'll see how much time he's going to be on the shelf for, because this might be something that he needs surgery for. And you would figure to get this whole Triple A involvement off the ground, like he would be one of those integral figures, especially for that June 7th show. And then throughout the pre-show, like again, I skimmed through a lot of this. It was more so interesting that, there was a time when you would not be able to re-air anything on the pay-per-view on the syndicated television for like an X amount of time. And here we are in 2025. They're airing the full closing minutes of like the two major matches from the night before. Like it just shows you where they are now, and obviously Peacock and Netflix, and like this is on the free just YouTube channel that they're just replaying the finishes and such. But
it's a different world. Like if they weren't playing it, somebody else, you'd be able to type it online on Twitter or Blue Sky, and you'd be able to find it yourself.
Yes, Tony Hinchcliffe was interviewed on the panel and would get a roaring response from the audience later. He admitted, when I was on commentary a few weeks ago, I was in way over my head, and I heard about it from the fans online. And man, they really pushed this roast on the pre-show, which is interesting because it's not as though you, the viewer at home, can watch this in any way. This is totally a local event to go if you're in and around like the area tonight after the roast. So
they almost makes me wonder if they're going to be doing more with him beyond the roast.
I could absolutely see that. I am positive they will be taping this, and I could even see it in some form being released at a later date, just because there's a lot of major comedians that are going to be attached to this. Like, say what you want about Tony Hinchcliffe. He's a super popular comedian, and this is the kind of thing that even in an edited form, I think there is a fan base that is very interested to see something like this. And I think Netflix would love to have this of two of its big properties in like Kill Tony and WWE doing a collaboration. We had sit down interviews with Rhea Ripley, with Cody Rhodes, and they did this roundtable discussion on wrestling and hip hop with Big E, Jey Uso, Pete Rosenberg, and Killer Mike, which must have been filmed a few weeks ago when Killer Mike was at that episode of Raw. So this was, I like the idea of this pre-show. They come up with like these different stories and stuff that they just insert. They've got a lot of time in all of this. And then we closed the same way we did Saturday with the City of Dreamers video voiced by Dana White, welcoming us to fucking WrestleMania. Are you ready for fucking WrestleMania?
Do I want to be a fucking professional wrestler?
And welcome to fucking WrestleMania 3. Imagine if that was the big soundbite Vince gave in 87.
Sure.
And now, Miss Aretha fucking Franklin.
Yes.
Ava Max sang the national anthem. 10-8 round for Jelly Roll. Jelly Roll was the man on anthems this weekend.
Are you actually a Jelly Roll fan?
I like Jelly Roll. I honestly
like him on your Spotify playlist.
I don't listen to a whole lot of his music, but I remember when we were at that SummerSlam last year and he did the anthem, and I listened to it. I was like, this guy's like really like he's got a really like. Sometimes you can be a great artist, and it takes a certain skill set to do the anthem. Like there's a certain. It takes a specialness to, I think, nail the anthem. Everyone's got their own kind of flavor. I thought this guy was like really good in that role. So. Okay. I like the role they put Jelly in.
You would go see him in concert?
Maybe if my my Uber driver gave us a lengthy story giving us about how Jelly Roll was very inspirational for their family. That did happen. We got quite a testimonial in Cleveland about Jelly Roll. Then we go into a recap of the first night, and the most we got of Dwayne Johnson was a soundbite. The moment has arrived. Yep. What moment that is? To be determined, okay? Figure out my Rubik's Cube.
Yeah. Well, the moment of the soundbite. That's really all this moment was.
Yeah. Yes. Paul Levesque opened up the show on Saturday, so tonight was Stephanie's turn, and she mentions
as was the case last year.
That's right. They did split duties last year, so this is kind of our, I guess, unofficial pattern for opening Manias each night. She said that the last time WrestleMania was here was at WrestleMania 9 when I was 16 years old. And now that we're back in Las Vegas, my middle daughter is 16. I was like, yeah, what a crazy coincidence. That's amazing. Yeah, that's how age works. Yes. And says, you are all a part of my family because WWE is family. Welcome home. As the pyro goes off, and
can I opt out of this family? I don't really. I'm good. Like
this is where I imagine your wonderful partner like upstairs with these children, and just hearing you downstairs way as this voice is off. We're your family now. Welcome home.
Yeah,
you're being pried away.
I'm good. Yeah.
All right. Well, the family barbecue is going to be called by Michael Cole, Pat McAfee, and Wade Barrett, the same team as we had last night. And we're starting things off with Io Sky, Rhea Ripley, and Bianca Belair for the Women's World Championship. And we got multiple big, elaborate entrances throughout the whole second night, starting off with Bianca Belair, who came out, and there's a group of girls they're doing like double dutch, and we have others that have the Bianca Belair braid, including her stepdaughter, who was one of them that they identified as she came out. And of the three, Bianca was the one that was booed. Io Sky got a lot of cheers. Rhea Ripley was like another level for her entrance. Like, she was just super over, coming out in this skull mask. And then we get into the match. But what did you think, Way, about the entrances here?
I think it was notable for me how Io, continues to receive the biggest babyface reaction out of the three of them, for somebody who I think at the beginning of the year I didn't see in this WrestleMania title program. They've done a very good job of making her feel like a focal point, despite not really being the person to cut the promos. I thought Belair looked fantastic. Rhea just has the presence I think you completely expect of somebody for a WrestleMania stage. And it was a relatively simple entrance for her, but I think she's so magnetic herself that it felt big for that reason.
So the crowd they're booing Bianca, and then Sky is standing between them, and they go to do the spot where they just put their hands up, and this time Io stops them, and the match begins, and we get right into things. Ripley hits a cannonball to the floor, and Io follows with an Asai moonsault, landing on Ripley. Belair hit like Matt Jackson's Rolling Northern Lights, and then Sky gets put up in the air for a delayed vertical, and then we get a kip up, and the crowd's booing Bianca for this feat of athletic strength. Belair catches Sky on the floor and swings her right into the barricade right in front of Nick Khan, which would not be the most dangerous nailing of the barricade with a potential person being injured. Ripley hits a razor's edge, sending Io into Belair, and then applies the prism lock. But from that, Belair breaks it by lifting up Rhea for the KOD. Rhea lands on her feet, and as all three go down in separate corners, the crowd is cheering on the match, which is everyone is clicking very well right from the get-go. After this missile dropkick lands for Io, she's playing up the crowd, and they're going wild for her. But then we go to Rhea, and she gets speared by Belair. There's a 450 on Sky. Ripley breaks it up and hits the first major move of the match with the Riptide, and Bianca kicking out at 2. And then we go for a super Riptide to Io off the turnbuckle. It's countered, and she goes for the over the moonsault, landing on the feet of Ripley. That's followed with Belair into the ring with the KOD onto Sky. Ripley saves it, and the crowd's going nuts at this point. Sky tries for a Poison Rana off the turnbuckle. Rhea blocks it and swings her face into the post. And then Bianca comes from behind, goes for another KOD. Ripley lands on her feet. They get into strikes, and it's Belair whipping Rhea with the braid right to the gut, and then goes for the KOD, and it's broken up with the over the moonsault, landing on top of Belair, and gets the pin at 14 minutes and 28 seconds to kick off the show.
Mm-hmm. By the time the show was over, I feel pretty confident in saying this is my favorite match of the entire weekend.
Agreed.
I think
did you say of the weekend or of the night?
Of the weekend.
Okay.
For me, yeah. Obviously the match in contention would be the main event from the Saturday. I thought that match had more spectacle, more, I think, theatrical dramatics. But I think as a pure wrestling match, I will look at this one as maybe more of something that I'll enjoy in the years ahead. We know Belair and Io have this legendary chemistry at this point, and they continued to show it every time they were in the ring here. I had some doubts about Io and Rhea's interactions because after seeing some of their matches on TV, I think there were some noticeable blemishes in their particular match. None of that tonight. I thought all three worked really well together, and they worked a wrestling match that was much faster than what we usually see in the WWE. And in this case, I felt like they pretty much hit everything with precision. Really well coordinated sequences involving a really high degree of difficulty, like that over the moonsault into the KOD. Just really, really well executed, well timed sequences that just completely lit this crowd up. And by the end, I thought all three, came out better stars.
I love this match. I thought that they kicked this off, and I was like, there's no way in hell this show is going to perform under night one, just with this match alone. I would go so far to say this would be in the contention among the best Mania openers that they have had. Like, it was that solid. And at 14 and a half minutes, I was disappointed it ended when it did. Like, I thought they easily had several more minutes in them. That this was great. And I like the idea of EO going over here, and the story really did lead its way toward that. Bianca can go off with Naomi and Jade and that whole direction. And I think EO, you wanted to give a big win to here. And the way that they protected Rhea, that's another match that could come out of this for another EO title defense.
Yeah, I think Belair in particular, I was really enjoying watching her because I thought she did a great job of embracing the heel role, playing with the crowd. I actually like her a lot more when she's cocky, and it's sort of territory we haven't really gotten into with her yet as part of her main roster run. I think Rhea, she herself has gone through a bit of a transformation since losing the championship in being I think, a bit more of a frustrated, sort of like maniacal version of herself, just kind of desperate for this championship. I feel like they could have gotten deeper into that in this build. I'm hoping that losing this WrestleMania match now might deepen her into that character. So kind of curious to see where that goes. The booking of this seems to cement EO as one of these top stars of the division. But I still have my doubts about how much they can really craft stories around her, because they needed Belair and Rhea to do so much of the heavy lifting in promotion of this particular match. How can EO continue on this type of run with limited promo speaking ability, and how many people can they craft around her to build to similar interests? Because I've yet to see that from them in the past.
Yeah, and I would say the concerns that people had in the lead up to this was not so much any of the combinations. It was the slotting in of Sky at first winning the title to make it a three-way. How you'd obviously need something big for Rhea Ripley. And any of these matches one-on-one, I think you wouldn't have had any of that criticism. But whenever you introduce a third party, people can get a little concerned. And that's why NordVPN has those concerns covered for you, because sometimes those third parties, they want your data.
I was not ready. I'm sorry. Support for this podcast comes from NordVPN. By now, a lot of our listeners already know about the benefits of a VPN for their wrestling consumption, helping them access cheaper prices for pay-per-views or ad-free programming through international versions of popular streaming services. But the most important benefit of a VPN continues to be its ability to help you shield your browsing. Using a trusted VPN like NordVPN adds an extra layer of protection from prying eyes, preventing your sensitive data from being sold or shared with third parties that may put you at risk of unwanted solicitations or even fraud. You know the link by now. NordVPN.com/postwrestling. Sign up for a 2-year plan for just a few dollars per month and get 4 bonus months through our exclusive offer. NordVPN.com/postwrestling. As always, you can try it with a 30-day money-back guarantee. Stay safe and enjoy all the benefits of a secure internet with Nord.
I'm sorry. That one just came to me as you were talking. I did not have that one planned out.
It might be your best work yet, honestly, John. They should hire you, really, to do the plugs on WrestleMania night, however many in the future.
Well, I would be deferring that they hire Flava Flav, who was our first of 5,000 celebrities that were shown. We went from Flava Flav to Merab Dvalishvili, and then Rich the Kid. So those are some of our representation.
Who did they turn down, I wonder, for ticket requests to this WrestleMania?
Have you ever done a stand-up set anywhere?
I mean, Flava Flav hasn't. I guess are you considered a part of the rap community?
Do you have a Wikipedia page?
Pretty much, yeah.
Drew McIntyre against Damian Priest.
I mean, I think you have a Wikipedia page.
I don't know if I do, to be honest.
Well,
someone
you
get
think
on
you'd
that.
get tickets?
No, I don't. Drew McIntyre and Damian Priest was next in the Sin City Street Fight. Drew McIntyre came out dressed as Doomslayer. Is this correct?
No. I think it's a character. Is it? I never played Doom, but
that's what they said, and I Googled this, and it looked similar, but I don't know if the character's called Doomslayer someone will.
So it's
alert
something
us.
from Doom, whether or not like it's
Okay.
Doom Slayer or Cole just confused
Okay.
the Slayer plug with the next guest. I'm not entirely sure.
Okay.
I don't give a shit either. Like don't tell me. Like leave it in the chat room if you do know the answer.
I thought it looked ridiculous, to be quite honest. Like, I understand you want to go for all these wild looks. I thought, like, they had what was this that came out? First, I thought it was like a big rock that he was going to pull the his sword out of or something, and it was just this blob that he like used as a footrest.
No, this one did not look that cool, honestly. But it was paid promotion, wasn't it?
Yeah, which is why I don't feel all that bad for not having all the details. So to counter that, they got Kerry King of Slayer to perform Damian Priest's entrance, and Priest came out, and there were multiple times that he was trying to like lock eyes to have like a moment with Kerry King, who was just so in the zone playing. He didn't even acknowledge the existence of Damian Priest. But he did give a nice.
Fine. Like, come on, like
The guy's playing. I don't blame him at
lost.
all. And he also brought out the he had the Dalton Castle wings.
I guess his version of it. Yeah, I actually really like this entrance. I mean, just having Kerry King out there play with this like, I guess bar of fire. It looks like. I mean, I thought it looked incredibly cool, cooler than Drew's at least.
Yeah, he came out. They mentioned that they plugged all of Slayer's upcoming dates. Amazing that Michael Cole just knew all that off the top of his head to promote all of their upcoming dates, and that Damian Priest.
One they were paid for, I guess, with the Doom. And this one, I don't know. They're doing a favor.
I would imagine that, yeah, that's their favor. And yeah, Damian will be hosting one of their concerts. Drew attacks him from behind. Nick Khan left during this match. It was interesting to watch what matches he was there for, and others, I guess he had business to take care of. Priest drops him with the steps, and this was just, your weapons match, basically. That was a Sin City street fight. Drew recovers. He uses the steps, and then in the spot of the match that is going to get all of the attention, Drew grabs a phone from his brother who's in the crowd, and he goes over as Priest is laid out on the floor and does the RIP meme, tweeting out, "Still bored at work, LOL." Right,
just a callback to last year's Mania when he did a similar spot with the tweet,
which he still has pinned.
Oh,
so they're right, like back to back. This thing, I looked like 10 minutes after, it had like 125,000 likes within 10 minutes. God knows what it is at now, but yeah, this was not a bad like selfie shot. Didn't have like, didn't have a thumb like smearing the image or anything like that. He did well.
It was well done, and like I'm assuming he actually did tweet this out live, and if he did so under that pressure, he got it out in a pretty good amount of time. No spelling mistakes either.
Imagine he was logged out or something. The Wi-Fi wasn't working in the stadium, and
imagine if Twitter was down at this moment.
I mean, I did hear about people Saturday, about like really bad Wi-Fi in the stadium itself, but maybe they got him a secure. Maybe they got him on like his phone connected to Nord. So there's a Tope Con Hero by Drew. He rolls Priest into the ring and goes for a Claymore, and Drew gets a chair whipped towards him and just like glazes off his forehead. And he barely registers it. He just resets and hits the Claymore for a 2 count.
It whips him, and like I think it went in a pretty bad angle because it went almost like legs first.
Yeah.
At least the way it looked on camera did not look great, but anyway, he's fine.
Drew attacks him with chair shots, which Wade describes as a kidney shredding chair shot. If that wasn't graphic enough, he added context that Priest will be peeing blood for months after those chair shots.
So, yet to be confirmed.
Maybe that'll be a segment on WWE Unreal coming this summer to Netflix. A table is set up, and they battle on the buckle. There's a razor's edge by Priest, putting Drew through the table. That gives us a near fall. And then there is the new shoulder to the post spot. It's the thumb to the eye. That this company has just fallen in love with the thumb to the eye spot for your heels. He hits the Future Shock on the steps, and then Damian goes for the rope walk, and he gets shoved off the top by Drew, and there's 2 tables on the floor. So Priest crashes through the 2 tables, and with the chair set up in the corner, Drew runs him headfirst into the chair using a Claymore and pins him at 13 minutes and 55 seconds. And it is Drew getting the clean win in the Sin City street fight. I did not think Drew was going to win this one, but he in fact did.
I thought this match was kind of okay for me. I thought it was a bit hampered by WWE's limitations of what might be permissible in their street fights. But you know what? As I say that, I'm also thinking back to like I think so many of the great no DQ street fight types of matches that they've had recently, like with Braun Strowman, Jacob Fatu, or any of like the Bronson Reed matches. I think even Drew McIntyre. You look at the feud last year with Punk and all that they accomplished in both satisfying violence and storytelling in his Hell in a Cell match with Punk. So for me, this match ended up being you know, uh, to me, the success of a street fight depends on how memorable many of its spots were, and I didn't find too many in here that were all that memorable. In 2025, I do just expect a bit more creativity and spectacle in these sort of matches, especially on a stage like WrestleMania. And I thought a lot of what we saw in this match was just kind of typical.
Yeah, I think I enjoyed it a bit more than you. I do feel like some of these weapons matches, it's very easy to just get hampered down by them. And it's not always my favorite type of match unless you really go outside the box and can convey that intensity, which this one never got to me. Like in terms of the intensity that they had in the build up to this match, that it kind of got matched at any particular point in here. More so from a booking standpoint, it does set up Drew for at least, a more prominent spot coming out of Mania than maybe he had coming into Mania, where he did feel as, these are two guys that, have been top guys over the last year that were sort of just slotted together for the Mania build.
Drew lost the Punk feud. I think he needed this win. They might rematch it and give Priest a win in their second chapter before going to a third. Triple H seems to love his trilogies. With the outcome of tonight, I don't know if we can sense a title direction for Drew McIntyre with a heel champion now leading SmackDown.
Well, you do have a babyface champion in Jay, so you can always go that direction too.
He's SmackDown though.
Do any of these things?
Right.
Yeah, really hard and fast rules. I think they can manipulate however. They promoted their return to Perth in October, where they're going to do a SmackDown, a unnamed premium live event, and a Raw at the RAC Arena in Western Australia. This is part of the expanded deal that TKO had announced earlier this year, because they're doing a fight night there later this year and a UFC pay-per-view in 2026, and it was to also include 3 WWE events. So that's all coming up in October, and I guess they're not announcing what the pay-per-view will be in October.
You could deduce probably, right? Like it might be. What was it last year? Was it Hell in a Cell?
Yes, that was their October show. So I don't know. Maybe they'll make it some Australian themed name. Clash in Perth.
Clash in Perth. Okay, yeah.
We saw Daniel Cormier and Tony Hinchcliffe, who was soundly booed. In this,
do you think that means anything to them? Like Dana getting booed, Tony Hinchcliffe getting booed, like whoever. Like will that deter them from working with?
No,
not at all.
I
don't think so.
I would say I'm pretty sure. And later we can talk about it now. Like Colby Covington was also the other one that was booed. So for this weekend, you had Dana White, Tony Hinchcliffe, and Colby Covington, who all have a thread that these are figures that to the WWE audience are Trump adjacent, and
and primarily Trump adjacent because they're WWE active performers and CEOs and whatever that get cheered very loudly, even though they too are Trump adjacent. Sorry.
Yes. And let's be honest, if Linda McMahon had been showing on camera, she's not getting booed, and she's the most connected to
wonder.
Trump.
I truly do wonder about that. Because I think like maybe a Levesque, for instance, is not as well known. Like it's not the first thing you think about. You think about the person who's creating all of this. Even Mark Calloway, but Linda at this point, it's sort of the first thing you think about is her role in the cabinet.
I mean, we had granted very like a small percentage of the audience, but what was the reaction Vince McMahon got at the Hall of Fame when his name was brought up? He was cheered on Friday.
I haven't seen it yet. So
yeah, wow. I mean, this was, Paul Levesque brought up the name, and it's not like it was like resounding like from everybody, but it was a positive reaction that Vince McMahon's name got up. It's possible Linda McMahon would get that reaction too, because she is very prominent now in terms of the administration. It would have been an interesting test if they had shown her.
The whole weekend kind of felt like a bit of a test, and they had if anything, I think it continues to show that a wrestling audience is very different from a UFC audience, and that might make force them to maybe adjust
there was a
strategies.
message there. There's a message there. I don't think it will at all deter them from any of their course of business. I don't for a Covington and a Hinchcliffe, not a thought that any of them would care. With Dana White, I would imagine he would not care either. Like maybe if you're an executive there, you feel it's a little embarrassing that one of your major figures is getting booed, but it's Dana White.
But getting booed in wrestling is not necessarily a bad thing. People just kind of look at it as.
But sometimes people outside of wrestling don't have that thought either. I don't think it's of any kind of concern for them, or that it's going to. But it was an indication of your audience, the fact that like it does really just put that really to rest, the idea that there's similarities with these audiences and their reactions to similar figures. On that note, we go to the Dude Wipes Fatal 4-Way Intercontinental Championship match with Bron Breakker, Finn Balor, Penta, and Dominik Mysterio. Dominik is out in a mask, takes it off, calling himself the best Mysterio of all time. And as Michael Cole is going through all of the different statistics, he shouts out John Chick and Greg Miller back at WWE headquarters for all of these stats.
He's the Chris Samsas of the WWE.
Yes. Yeah, that is these two and their roles. Where we learned this is the first ever Fatal 4-Way for the Intercontinental title in WrestleMania history. A first.
So what's up with that? Like
that there's never been a Fatal 4-Way for the IC title at WrestleMania?
Has there never been? Really?
I mean, they told me this. I take them at their word that this is an accurate stat.
Okay.
That's all.
I'm just trying to, what was WrestleMania 2000? Wasn't that a IC title? Oh, that was a triple threat. Okay. All right. Sure.
First ever. All these years later. It took 40 years for this moment, Way. This could have closed the show. So, yeah, I mean, in terms of the entrances here, I mean, it was, these were kind of just straightforward. Bron Breakker came out, just big, plow of smoke that he's walking through. And I thought Bron Breakker was the highlight of this match because he was just great with just working with everyone. Finn Balor, I thought, played like the glue really well of just being kind of the quarterback in a lot of this. Dominik was the interesting one because, man, as this match shifted, this audience got behind Dominik, and it almost like it just set the stage for the finish. And then you had Penta, who got several big dives and spots and was very over to this crowd. Some of the highlights included the sacrifice delivered to Balor, and then as Penta lifts up Balor for the Made in Japan, Braun comes from behind and Germans Penta with Balor. So he throws both of them. Carlito appears ringside, and Dominik and Balor start working together. Braun hits both with a double suplex, then a Breakensteiner to Balor. And as Balor clears the ring, Dominik is standing behind him. It's Paul Heyman all over again. And he eyes Balor, and he goes after Balor to try and hit the 619. Balor stops him, so now Balor attacks Dominik. And the audience is so heated here, and they're starting to sing for Dominik. They're cheering for Dominik, and there's a Penta driver onto Balor. Braun returns and makes the save, and then Carlito pulls the rope down as Braun crashes down to the floor, and we get a near fall by Dom. Then after Carlito pulls Penta out of the ring, he clears the Spanish desk, and Braun is on the U.S. desk, and he ends up jumping off one desk to spear Carlito through the other desk. Michael Cole nearly flatlined from this call and screamed that Carlito is dead. We never got an update on Carlito. Breakker then spears Penta. Dom comes from behind with a drop kick and hits the 619 and then goes for the frog splash. Balor knocks him off balance, and the crowd hates this. They are so behind Dominik at this point, and it's Balor alone with Braun as he goes through his finishing sequence, hits the coup de grace, but the coup de grace is broken up when Dom recovers on the corner, hits the frog splash onto Balor, and pins him in 10.5 minutes as this place goes nuts because Dominik wins the Intercontinental title. And then the best part of this celebration was he was all the way up this gigantic ramp and ran back to the ring for a second celebration. He was a total babyface by the end of this.
I did not expect this at all. I did not expect this reaction for Dominik. I mean, I think of any of these sort of I don't know. I don't know if you consider it like unexpected or even like a bit of a double turn type of reaction. I didn't think Dominik Mysterio would be one of the people that this crowd would completely favor by the night's end. And I think like considering the booking, they really landed on the perfect crowd for them to have this sort of match and this particular moment in front of. They made Dominik Mysterio the focal point of this, both in the booking and also the crowd. But athletically, like you mentioned, John, I thought Braun Breaker was the one who stole the show. Every move he did grabbed your attention. You know, just even certainly that spear through the table was the spot of the match. But this match would not have been captivating without the Balor-Dom dynamic, and I thought Balor did a great job of playing heel in the match to serve this sort of reaction for Dom. And I'm curious kind of to see where they go from here with
this.
With
this
him.
worked really well. I hope this is the skyrocket for Braun Breaker. You know, he's above the IC title level at this point, and I really hope we start to see his escalation. My only concern with Braun Breaker is just what he does. Like, this guy is an action figure that just, I just wonder what the toll is he is going to put on his body for some of this, that there will be at some point, I think, like a breaking point for him, pardon the pun, because it's unreal watching what this guy does, and it's probably a great thing for him that he is not doing 4 matches a week and a schedule like he would have had on a main roster years ago, as well, because it's insane to watch this guy and what he does.
He's spectacular in ring, and I think like the audience is still seeing him as a really fresh star, despite now being on the roster for several months. I think there's still a real novelty about seeing him wrestle and doing all of these spots. At the same time, I do feel like there's a pretty big gulf between where he's currently at, and I think what we're seeing even in the top title mix, when you've got like Gunther's and Jey Usos and, you know, whoever else, like Rollins and Punk probably, you know, that are sort of in that top mix. I think Breaker still needs to maybe develop more of he's a bit of a one-note personality at the moment, at least, you know, in this sort of main roster incarnation. So I'm kind of curious to see how much more of a complex promo he might be able to cut, how much more of a complex storytelling they might be able to do with him. Not to say every character needs that. Goldberg certainly didn't need that. But I do wonder if he might still be a little ways away from getting into that top mix.
I understand what you mean. He is very charismatic. Like, to me, I think it's just having like the substance that his programs have not really, like, he has not been provided that. Like, he's sort of just in these kind of basic angles that have led to these matches, and he's this champion that runs through people. I'm super high on this guy, and I think, like, hopefully he is one that you look at like on like a year-to-year progression, where he is this year versus next year, where you would hope that he's one of those on the ascent.
And Penta, I thought, had a really strong showcase on a big stage, despite not winning here. I thought he still gained a lot just from being I thought he had a great entrance, and just you know, on the stage looked very comfortable. Seeing him do that walk was awesome. So I thought he still left out an impression despite not winning the match. I thought he looked great in it.
Our first mystery match. Randy Orton comes out and notes it's his 20th WrestleMania. I'm ready to go. And he asks who will come through that curtain to get their WrestleMania moment. And we see the zoom in toward the entrance, and you see this back to the camera, and there is TNA heavyweight champion Joe Hendry, who I will absolutely say I was not thinking of at all for this role. And he comes out and, man, got like a pretty strong reaction coming out here from this crowd. And Randy's just eyeing him as he makes the big entrance. Pat McAfee immediately thinks this should be a title match. Michael Cole makes it very clear this is not a title match. I mean, if ever you
injecting logic into your wrestling commentary, Pat.
Yes. McAfee. So he comes out and the match begins, and I'm thinking at this point, I'm like, this sounds like a great idea. Like, you're going to give Joe Hendry like this, he's going to lose to this guy. Like, I don't think the outcome was at all in question. And it was just something that, just have him, give him one big close call on Randy Orton. Well, he got the close call. It was a neck breaker, and he started his queen stomp. And then he fell to the dreaded poke to the eye. Not just for heels. It can also be used for Randy Orton. So he pokes him in the eye, and then he sets up for the RKO. It's blocked, and Hendry gets his fall-away slam and then does the kip up and does his Hendry pose, twisting to the hard cam. It zooms in, and then we get the RKO out of nowhere in 3 minutes and 8 seconds. First of all, a tremendously blocked finish. I will say that if that sure. is a category. And I know that there will be two schools of thought on this, and feel free to weigh in. There will be the, oh my God, this is the worst thing ever for your world champion of a company to lose like this. You can make that argument. The other would be the other extreme of, are you kidding me? This guy just got onto WrestleMania and he was seen by all of these people. You can make that argument too. I'm somewhere in the middle where I don't think this helps TNA one bit, and I don't think it hurts TNA one bit. I don't think one more person is buying Rebellion next weekend, and I don't think one less person is buying Rebellion next weekend. For Joe Hendry, it's like you got booked in this match, but it was 3 minutes. So if you were into like the pop, like that's what this was.
Sure. Yeah. Well, first of all, at the choice of Joe Hendry, initially my reaction to it was, didn't really like it. And that was because I think I had expected a more serious opponent. Somebody, I mean, the conversation was more Aleister Black or Miro, like, opponents that you think would match sort of like the tone of a Randy Orton a little bit better. To me, Joe Hendry, I still see very much as sort of undercard comedy guy. I know he's not booked as that anymore, certainly not in either NXT or TNA, but the style of wrestling to me just kind of feels like it doesn't really feel like it belongs in across the ring from Randy Orton at a WrestleMania. To me, not yet. Clearly, there are a lot of people that even present in the arena tonight, and certainly online, that disagreed with me. But for this spot, the more I thought about it, the more I understood the choice. How many people could you really put into this position that had to lose to Randy Orton, while still pulling off, like some semblance of like a decent match, while also being somebody that they might have future ambitions of using, that they would want to give the spotlight to. Yeah, they could have brought in, I don't know, like a Jeff Hardy or something like that, but it's not really sort of investing the way that I think this would be investing in a Joe Hendry that is clearly going to come into the WWE at some point. So I understand it. You want somebody who gets that initial pop upon entry, and I think he ended up being a decent choice, which, does cap off just an incredible year for him. Like, it was less than a year ago that he showed up in that NXT thing. And to see from that to this really does tell a pretty incredible story when you think about it.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. But I think, like, the way these vignettes have been set up, it does feel like they have their plan for Aleister Black, and they're promoting this for Friday. So you understand that. And if we're looking at a Rusev, and from your description, I would agree with it. It's the idea that, we want to like sacrifice a Rusev here, or just, throw him into the mix here. I mean, it does tell you sort of like, this is a partner promotion of ours, and we do not view their world champion with that same priority of any kind of protection or of anything. Like, we can throw them out there as this like fall guy for Randy Orton, whereas we do hold that belief that you could be hurt by this, but we're not going to put one of our guys in that position.
So a bit of a hot take, but I don't think they should see TNA as an equal promotion. It's not. One is seen by, I mean, it's on Netflix. The other is seen by a much smaller audience. I think in the pecking order, there's a very clear distinction between certainly WWE and NXT, and I would rank TNA even below NXT. And I don't think that's controversial to say. Yes, it's a partner promotion, but by all accounts, TNA shouldn't be getting this spot. The fact that they are, I think, I would consider to be a bit of a favor, or, for the promotion. I think the people that are in charge of making these decisions at TNA also see that. So I don't think they would regret this. Like, they got their guy on a WrestleMania in a prime spot.
You can look at that. Like, again, I don't subscribe to the idea that, oh, like it's this great thing for TNA. I was like, I don't think this makes a bit of difference for TNA, good or bad. I think it's a cool moment for Joe Hendry to get this, and he's absolutely on WWE's radar. He probably ends up at some point in WWE. It's definitely not a negative for a Joe Hendry.
It's a positive in that a lot more people now know Joe Hendry than they even did just from watching him at the Rumble or watching him on NXT. And if they might happen to channel surf TNA and see Joe Hendry, well, now they know who this guy is.
No one's channel surfing these days and landing on Access TV.
YouTube surfing, I guess.
Then we go to our next segment. Well, first, Orton applauds Hendry, raises his arm before hitting him with another RKO. This was totally unnecessary.
Yeah, was that necessary? I don't know.
This was, trust us, we're not going to screw up any of your AAA heroes, okay? I mean, it's just, this is WWE, okay? And this is a perfect encapsulation of WWE for everyone out there. So you can tell me all about your partnered promotions, and we value all of these companies. It's like, we are number one, and this was our exclamation point, was the post-match here. So he hits another RKO, and then Orton goes to do the Joe Hendry pose and does the arms up for the Randy pose to the camera.
Yeah, but okay, let's say, I don't know, a few months from now, Joe Hendry makes his transition over to the WWE. I feel like this already sets him up decently, don't you think?
He'll come in and he'll get a big pop.
People know who he is.
I don't think they see him coming in as though this like AJ Styles showing up at WWE, where he's like this giant star to people.
No, he's at a certain type of level, character.
This is where they announce Money in the Bank and World's End. So June 7th at the Kia Forum for World's End, and the Intuit Dome, which is where they held the first Netflix card, all day long in Los Angeles.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
What a Saturday. Logan Paul against AJ Styles is next. So Paul's entrance, he comes out filming himself with a drone, and comes out and he's just walking across the stage. And they've also, with the new setup of this one, they have VIP seating on the actual stage. So he's filming these people, and then after the drone shot, it goes into this multi-screen where we're watching Logan's entrance from 9 different angles. I thought this was a pretty cool entrance that they did for Logan Paul, and fits with the character.
Agreed. Seeing Logan Paul walk out there with just basically a selfie camera, not knowing that he was actually holding a drone, and then seeing that camera fly into the air across the arena, getting these incredible shots before flying back into his hand, like it was what is it, the Falcon, sending a Red Wing, out to the distance and then coming back to him. That was incredibly cool.
This had to have been like a super complex, like to figure this out and to make sure it would go.
All these entrances are, John. Like, I mean,
they are, but this one especially, to me, it's like,
sure.
Okay, make sure you can do double Dutch is a difference than land the drone in the hand.
Yeah. This has always been a specialty of WrestleMania, but I think it's now even more of a specialty under the Levesque fitting era. Like, Paul Levesque seems so incredibly proud of these entrances that he's uploading these videos of himself directing these very complex blocking and entrances. And sometimes they can maybe get a little too involved with maybe all of this stuff. But I mean, I think for WrestleMania, you come to expect it. Right?
Can you imagine watching this and then Drew gets his manila packet with his entrance? It's like, oh,
you're getting the rocks.
Sorry, we forgot, Drew. We came up with this at catering today. It's all we can muster.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with Doom? Is it are you getting Slayer or Doom Slayer? So AJ comes out to no special entrance. He got his music. And there's a sign facing the hard cam, Prime makes me gag. And the match starts. Nick Khan has returned for this match. Paul grabs him by the arm and runs him into the shoulder twice. And then So the match is going along, and then Paul goes up to the Prime hydration station and grabs what we learn now is a drone. And then the drone just flies around the ring as they're continuing the match, and they stayed on this drone shot for about a minute or so to just incorporate that aspect of things.
This is where I feel like they might have gotten too cute and too involved with the production elements of this, because
it's a little long on the drone shot.
It offered nothing. Like, you could tell it was probably their idea of doing like that Lee fitting ringside camera shot, but now with a drone. But it was so far away that I didn't think it was all that effective. If somehow the drone ended up being involved in the spot, maybe he could have used it to hit AJ, or I don't know. That sounds very dangerous, but I was expecting a bit more of a payoff for it.
So there's a frog splash by Logan Paul. He gets a 2 count. Then he hits the overbomb as he drops AJ on his front, and AJ gets to the rope, stopping the pin. And then Logan starts doing Hulk Hogan poses. He's cupping the ear. He then does the Hogan pose and goes for his version of the leg drop, which Terry Bollea was never pulling off. And then he's attacking AJ with strikes, with uppercuts, and AJ is just getting beaten and beaten and beaten. And it's kind of just like, it just felt the crowd was expecting this to be some big high-flying affair between these two, doing all these crazy spots, and it was almost like they were getting impatient. So it's just a lot of selling by AJ until he is thrown into the turnbuckle, holds up to avoid going in, and just yells, "Motherfucker," and fights back. And as he is making his comeback, the announcers are noting how AJ has packed on a lot of muscle. Yes, he is very jacked. And then AJ hits a brainbuster. The phenomenal forearm gets stopped, and Logan hits this impressive quebrada 3/4 of the way across the ring. Very, very impressive looking. Goes for the buckshot lariat, which Michael Cole yells, "That clothesline," and then a blue thunder bomb in response by AJ Styles. There's a springboard 450. He lands on Paul's knees, and Paul lifts up AJ for the Styles Clash, which he hits. But then AJ just rolls around, no selling his own finish, and lifts up and hits his own Styles Clash. So both of them are down. And then we get into the fun. It's the return of Jeff, the entourage guy from Logan Paul's crew, who shows up every couple of months for a big Logan Paul match. He's hiding beneath the ring with the brass knuckles when all of a sudden a big tattooed arm grabs the arm of Jeff. And it is Karrion Kross. It was like, oh yes. And Styles comes down, throws Jeff, who we never see again, and then we get Karrion Kross pleading, but not to the character AJ Styles. No, brother, we're shooting. It's WrestleMania. Alan, please, Alan, use the brass knuckles. And AJ takes those brass knuckles. Hell no, I'm not using these brass knuckles. And he strikes Karrion Kross, goes for the phenomenal forearm. Logan Paul has time to recover, so he ducks the phenomenal forearm, nails him with the titanium right hand, and hits the pulverizer and pins AJ in 17 minutes and 50 seconds, bringing us one step closer. Yes.
17, wow.
Yeah, this was long, and longer than I did feel the match went. Yes. So Karrion Kross, the biggest week of his WWE career.
Oh, yeah. He's had to...
match on Raw, match on SmackDown, an appearance at WrestleMania, and he slid in to do a Bloodsport match. So a giant week for Karrion Kross.
Had to pull out that hair straightener several times this week. So
that's right.
All in all, I was a bit disappointed by this particular match. Like maybe it's just kind of the way that
they've set the bar very high now for these Logan Paul matches, and I think it's very clear that they saw him as immediately, we're going to choreograph these matches for him where he does all these breathtaking spots, and now the audience expects them, and I think they want him to slow things down and work more of this style and get away from the big stunts. And like AJ's a lot more selective with that. Like this is not AJ Styles of 2005, but still one that is very capable of doing a compelling 18 minutes. I thought this was good, but it to me did not raise above that level. So I had a similar thought for you. If you had told me they were going to get 18 minutes, yeah, I would have expected like this could have been like your best match of the show with that amount of time in these two in there.
I could understand wanting, to train Logan Paul to become a more well-rounded traditional pro wrestler by not doing as much spectacle and as much high flying. I don't think WrestleMania is that time to get him to
Workshop
try
this new
that out.
style.
Yeah, when this match was
Like, what
booked,
did he do in this match? Like, he did the buckshot,
he grabbed a drone and
the
set it
styles
up.
clash. Like
Yeah.
it was just a lot of selling, and it was like the audience was kind of that, like, they really were not as hot for this.
I would also say for AJ Styles, when blame me for romanticizing the idea of AJ Styles at Mania being some sort of special thing. I don't know if it has really ever been. Like the Shane match, right? It was really strong. Anyway, I'm not trying to recatalog AJ's matches, but this was even disappointing.
The
for
Boneyard match. Let's not overlook that.
I thought it was disappointing for an AJ Styles match,
And what could end up being like he might not get another singles match at a WrestleMania at this stage. Like, when
Perhaps.
you're looking at the big names that were left off like this year's show, like AJ, I don't know if he'll be in a position like this next year.
Yeah. And overall, the match just never really got to a high enough level before the shenanigans in the finish. So all in all, didn't make that big of an impression on me.
Yeah, the ending took it down for me. I just thought the inclusion of Cross and the guy from the Entourage just kind of like soured me on the end of this. We had some stats courtesy of Greg and Jeff back in Stanford. 421 matches in the history of WrestleMania, 456 unique individuals, and 26 cities.
All right, thanks.
So bring that up at your next get together with all your friends. Yeah. And then they announce it's WWE Unreal, debuting this summer on Netflix, where you go from the writer's room right into the ring.
So this has to be their Drive to Survive that Nick Khan has been hinting at.
And right? If this does not feature the whole lead up from Elimination Chamber to WrestleMania and Dwayne Johnson, then I'm not interested.
Is that is that the 5D chess that Dwayne Johnson has been referring to? I'm going to show up, tease a big story, and then completely leave just so
we're going to peace out.
Yeah, just so we can have great material for our upcoming Netflix series. Yeah. It sounds promising.
Sorry, guys. I want to apologize because, as Paul Levesque said this week, you know what? Just stop being a critic. Just enjoy the show, okay?
Right. Yeah.
Pay for our product and shut the fuck up.
Yeah, it was great. Yeah, it was great. The show was great, and really nothing more to say. It was fantastic.
Thank you, dear leader.
The description from Michael Cole, what little we had of it, I thought made this sound pretty promising. It's promising to be focused on the writing of the WWE, and we really haven't seen that at all outside of the behind the curtain special that we saw from the last time Dwayne Johnson fucked up a wrestling storyline heading into WrestleMania. So, I'm captivated.
This is the new streak.
Oh yeah. How is Dwayne going to screw up this year's Mania?
One worked, one didn't.
And how can we turn that into compelling, behind the scenes of documentary? It promises that it's not.
Maybe it gets the name where it's they shoot this incredible angle on March the 1st, and then March 2nd we get Paul Levesque in the writer's room, realizing unreal.
He screwed us again. Like we've discussed the idea of a Drive to Survive for the WWE in 2025. It can't be another Tough Enough or like even a Total Divas. It has to
look at LFG. Like, what traction has LFG maintained among people? Like 20 years ago, that would have been a super cool idea, like the original Tough Enough was. But your audience has matured. Like, that is not. Like, yeah, you'll get your 150,000 viewers for that. This has to be something that you feel like this is a look that you have never gotten from WWE, and they have the ability to do this. It's their ability. And granted, there is going to be plenty of working involved in this, but it's conveying real. Like, that's the goal.
And I wonder how much of this has come down as maybe through conversations with Netflix, or is it just their interpretation of what they think a Netflix audience or Netflix executives may want. If you remember, it was the next Netflix debut where we had the typewriter, whole thing, right? This seems to be just another extension of that, where we are acknowledging that professional wrestling has writers. We have executive producers. Their names are Paul Levesque and Lee Fitting and whomever. but I'm curious to see how it manifests itself into a reality show, because I'm interested to see what a WWE's version of this sort of dialogue that you and I are having, that wrestling fans have had with each other for decades now, what that might look like, and how they can manage to work that into, I guess, a future form of storytelling. To me, reality TV has always been, I think, a great potential platform for professional wrestling. So I'm curious to see how this turns out.
I mean, there's lots of that you can dive into, like just the lead up to WrestleMania. Like you can go into like the Stratton Flair stuff, and you can still, in a story like this, like you can still weave in like storyline with real stuff as well, which is pretty much that's reality television essentially. And I imagine them leaning on that. Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez are out, and Lyra Valkyria comes out, and she had like this great looking costume, and she's really trying, like the crowd was like singing along with her theme, and she's really trying, like there's a point in the match, she's really trying to get the theme over to people. Like, I think this woman works really hard when she's given very little, and I do give her credit for this. It's like she gets so little TV time. This title reign has been not spectacular, and it's just...
I don't disagree with you, but she's been given more than many have. And many have, like, she's the IC champion. Okay, she's been in tag team matches with Becky Lynch. At some point, I do think it's a limitation of her natural charisma, which I do think she has to show more of.
There's a gap there. I just... To me, she is one that, I mean, you can argue either way, that she has not broken through and created that spot for herself. But at the same time, like this has been, I think pretty much across the board, there's been a lot of criticism of just sort of these, you've added these titles and it has not come with more time being devoted to them, or just any kind of story to sink your teeth into with anyone here. Probably that could change coming off of this, because... So they did the storyline to remove Bayley, and in comes Becky Lynch, and she gets a big reaction for her return. This is her first match since May 27th, when she lost a cage match on her final Raw to Liv Morgan. Liv Morgan selling the fear of God when Becky walked out was outstanding. She was really, really great in conveying this. And they cut to a fan, like a woman in tears over this return for Becky Lynch. So that is a fan that stayed off on. That's a fan that stayed offline all day long.
Oh, right. Yes. You never know what people, did to get here. You never know. Like, maybe they never expected to see Becky Lynch. Maybe she's from halfway across the world, and this is her favorite wrestler. You never know.
No, the camera found her like immediately. So it was
maybe the sun was really in her eyes, and that's what caused it. Yeah.
That was it. Maybe
one of Lyra's feathers fell into her.
Maybe she was starting to realize that Dwayne Johnson wasn't showing up tonight, and she paid a lot of money for these tickets.
Sure.
So Liv tags out immediately to avoid Becky, and so Raquel starts off with Becky, and then so Becky's in for a short time, and then Liv knocks Lyra off the top and into a kick to the body by Raquel, and it seemed as though, first of all, the first spot Becky has, Raquel lifts her up for a scoop slam, and Becky's to go to the back, and I think like Raquel just collapses, and they just fall right away. So... welcome back, Becky. And then as Lyra is on the top turnbuckle, it seems like she is waiting for this referee to be distracted so that they can do the spot. And it was one of those like time standing still. It was only a couple of seconds, but she's like, it's like we got 60,000 people here, and her head's just like, come on. And then they get the heat on Lyra for a long time. And this audience, they were here to see one person, and it was Becky Lynch, unfortunately, because I don't think there was a whole lot of interest in the other three in any form or combination, and it did drag this one down just in terms of a crowd atmosphere part. Eventually, they make the big tag to Becky, and the crowd awakens. She hits a Bexploder, goes for the disarmer, Raquel breaks it up, and then Becky gets distracted, leading to the Oblivion, but Lyra makes the save, and then Lyra dives to Raquel on the floor into a tornado DDT. That takes out Raquel, and as Liv is watching this, she turns around and is hit with the manhandle slam. Becky pins her in 8 minutes and 45 seconds. I did not think this was all that great of a match. You got the title change at the end, the big pop for Becky, and she was over. And I think your hope would be that this hopefully elevates these tag titles a bit. And it does set up Becky Lynch being on NXT on Tuesday because they have the number one contenders coming out of Stand and Deliver that they'll take on Gigi Dolan and Tatum Paxley.
Yeah, I believe at the press conference she says she'll be back. She's back full time now, which you would expect with her being a champion, of course. I agree with you. I thought the match was really just kind of okay. I feel like Lyra has had stronger singles matches on television. This was a match that was built entirely around the entrance of Becky Lynch and also the Becky Lynch hot tag, and that was all fine. It was executed as I think you would expect it to. Nothing stood out though. Nothing like ever hit a higher gear that, in my opinion, is something I would expect for WrestleMania. I would expect people to bring their best performances. I would expect the booking and the creative in the construction of these matches to be the strongest. And this wasn't really that. It was really just about the entrance. It was about the hot tag and then the finish. So, Becky looked fine. Like you, I actually was maybe most impressed with Liv Morgan and how comfortable she feels now playing this lead heel role. And when you just kind of compare her evolution over the years, she had always felt maybe a little bit uncomfortable in trying to discover herself, maybe a little bit shy even, like when she started in this role. Now she feels very seasoned. So Lyra, great in ring, but to me, still very generic as a personality. My hope is that this team with Becky will be leading to a feud between the two somehow, and I would expect maybe Lyra as a heel at some point, which tends to be the thing that these personalities might kind of need to drag out an evolution out of them.
And also coming out of this, you now have Liv without a belt and Dominik now with the belt as well, so they can have some fun with that. I think Dominik with this belt, they can certainly do a lot of entertaining stuff with that. And around the Judgment Day, like Dominik can now assume like, I'm now the belt holder in this group. I should be the leader and I want to bring in a new member. There's many different paths you can go, and Liv being in the midst of this too.
Do you have any thoughts about like Becky coming in here and the way that they booked Bayley and how that might play itself out, not just in terms of story, but in terms of online discourse and perceptions of both women?
I think they had to expect that people would be upset about it. I mean, I was not following people's reactions to this. I'm sure there was that. It sounds like this was always the plan. Like this was not some last minute thing, and I think it will play out in a story for Bayley. But by the end of this, like who attacked her? We have another mystery attacker as well that they have to eventually answer.
Yes.
So. Give us 6 months and we'll figure that one out. But I think this will listen. Becky was the bigger star. Now the question is, like, this crowd was really like they were into one person, and it was the person who has not been on television for a year. And if you had this whole idea planned out, I think this could have been built up a lot better than winning a gauntlet 6 days before WrestleMania.
Yeah. I get. You're not wrong about that. And again, maybe we await the Unreal documentary to see exactly what the answer to that was. I think like you are risking now Becky Lynch already fighting the perception of being somebody who takes time off only to come back to be put in a prominent position, similar to I think what has kind of hindered Charlotte and her attempt at becoming a babyface. That said, I think Becky is a lot more well liked than Charlotte, so I think she'll survive it. I also think it's to the betterment of the overall match and product itself to have Becky Lynch in here instead of Bayley. That's just sort of the unfortunate case. But there is a potential for backlash. There's a potential for them to turn that into a compelling storyline with Bayley and also Becky in the future.
I'd say there's more than potential. It's coming up in 3 weeks.
That's right, Backlash, yeah.
And then we go to the wildest segment of the night. Steve Austin got to the stadium. They said, Steve, you've got a simple job. You're going to go out and you're going to read the attendance.
Oh, boy.
Did you see how Sean did it last night? Same thing. That's all. That's all you've got to do. Real quick and easy. Well, Steve had other ideas. He decided he's going to come out on his ATV. And this man has done this many, many times. And I've always marveled at the speed at which he has gone down this ramp and then just like totally cranked on the gears to go around the ring. And he's always done it. I've never seen this guy screw this up. Well, there's always a first time for everything. And as he is doing one more lap around the ring, he crashes into this LED screen and a fan in the front row just falls. You just see them go down, and Austin can no longer move the ATV. He gets out. There's like a look. He's like, I got a segment to do. So he just gets into the ring, and we're hoping, is his fan okay? The announcers are just laughing away. They could not care about what was going on over here. And so Austin gets into the ring. Cole does note, I hope that young lady is okay. And he announces the attendance at 63,226. But Steve's not done yet. He says, you know what? I've been in a lot of big arenas. I think there's more people than that. Like, okay, maybe he's going to try and get the commission to release like a turnstile count or something. And he starts doing a head count, which would have been very helpful in 1987 as well. And he gives up after getting to like 10 and notes that the 2-day number of 124,693. I hope everyone makes it home safely. Everyone, he mentions. And then he drinks his beers as an enormous, just inconceivable amount of pyro goes off for him drinking beer. And then as he gets out of the ring, Nick Khan has left his seat to go check on this fan, which meant that there had to have been grave concern for the president of the company to come over and promise this person tickets to any sporting event or entertainment event in the world that you want. I can get these tickets for you. And Austin walks over, and I can only imagine, you got this handled, Nick? Great, I'm out of here. And there went Steve off into the sunset. So, yeah. What the hell happened here?
This is my immortal moment of this particular WrestleMania, John.
He outdid his last appearance where he gave that stunner to Vince at the end of that WrestleMania.
God. Yeah, how embarrassing. I mean, at the end of this, I guess I asked myself, how has this not happened sooner? You know, with the speed at which he drives these ATVs or just people riding their motorcycles and everything. Now I have seen very little reaction online because I just haven't looked at it yet, but many people saying that studying this footage, looking at how much contact was actually made, people feeling like the fan was overselling it. None of us can say that, you know, we don't
this
know.
Person fell on impact. I don't think
she didn't exactly fall on impact. She fell afterwards. Now we're trying to break this down. And I'm just saying we shouldn't because we weren't there. We weren't this person. We don't exactly know what sort of ailments this person has. It's hard to say, right? It's just this is now an interesting story that has taken place, and it was really interesting to see it play out on
I love
TV.
wrestling fans. Did she milk the impact of this ATV coming at this wall? Did she see dollar signs on this once in a lifetime opportunity?
Tune into the next edition of WWE Unreal, where this fan gives her story.
Yeah, probably wouldn't have been the best look if they had left the ATV out here after this guy's just potentially knocked this fan over and then drunk a bunch of beer and driven off back up the ramp. So he did do the long walk up the ramp without the ATV.
Yeah, he did. Yeah. I don't know if he could have turned the ATV back on. I thought the ATV was probably done. They're probably going to impose a speed limit now for all of these vehicles that are ringside from this point on. I can only imagine what Nick Khan was feeling in that moment. I also have to ask why he decided to cross around the ring, knowing that they were still likely on air, to talk to this fan ringside. Could have just been like it was the easiest path to the fan, but he also could have waited till afterwards, and I think that would have taken a lot of the attention off of it, because with Nick Khan being right there, prompting Steve Austin to go over there, and the cameras to go there, it suddenly made it that much more of a focal point for the actual production itself, rather than something that they might have preferred to deal with off air.
I mean, hopefully the person's okay and didn't sustain any major injury. Like it was not an insignificant speed that he was going at, like and nailed this thing.
Oh yeah, it's crazy.
Like it's not like he was just going like five clicks here around the ring. Like he was full on like turning this thing.
What VIP experience are they providing for this fan at the moment, or what contracts or NDAs are they trying to attempt her to sign right now?
Well, we'll see. Coming this summer to Netflix. We're going to get into the main event. After we finish, we are going to be taking some limited calls. So we have sent out the link for our members of the Post Wrestling Cafe. We're going to be keeping calls brief, so have your thoughts and points ready when we get to you. But we will go to calls after we finish this review. Big news. Cena and Paul Heyman will be on the Pat McAfee show on Monday, regardless of whether Cena wins or loses. So this was our go-home segment.
These always kind of telegraph it for me.
Yeah, well,
don't they for you?
I mean, these were your two big focal points of night 1 and night 2, booked for Pat McAfee on Monday. Cody Rhodes against John Cena for the undisputed WWE Championship. In the Nestle Drumstick WrestleMania main event.
Thank you. Yes.
John Cena comes out. Totally stripped down entrance. There's no video. There's no logos. It's just black with white block letters reading John Cena. I like this a lot because John Cena has always had like the really big over the top WrestleMania entrances. And here for this last one, nothing. The most bare bones of John Cena entrances. You did not care for this?
Well, I get it, of course. I didn't like it for the last one, just because we won't have another opportunity.
What was he supposed to do? Like have a whole marching band for him here?
Yeah, why not? Sure. Okay.
He should have walked out with the TKO board of directors, all of them. They all walked down in single file.
Okay.
And
who would
that
be
should have
at
been
the front?
John Cena's got the backing of the board.
Oh, well, you'd be missing one member at least.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, okay, if we're going by that logic that this guy wants to downplay and take away from the fans his great entrances, well, why are you still selling flashy shirts? Why are you still playing the music? Why are you still doing
because I don't think
that?
the guy was going to be turning heel 2 months ago. That would be my first thought. But just imagine if he comes out and the chorus of boos and then a rogue board member grabs the microphone to tell all you 60,000 fans.
The marketplace is frothy.
That should be the theme song. That should be the new drop instead of the MOP opening.
So Cena is out. Totally mixed reaction. And I mean, you might not have seen SmackDown, but very pro Cena crowd on SmackDown. And as the match progressed, it was definitely more for Cena, and then got eventually exceptionally loud booing for Cody. So Cody makes his entrance. We get all these like a whole motocross entrance for him with all these dudes on motorbikes. They all line up, and Cody makes his entrance to Kingdom wearing the WrestleMania main event skull mask that opens automatically.
Yeah, it's got like an Iron Man feature built into it. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, this
probably cost like $50,000.
Some fan will buy it, and his family is shown in the front row, including his daughter Brandy, his mother, and incredible atmosphere for the beginning. Like this does feel like the two biggest stars on either night because this crowd is electric as the bell rings. Michael Cole gives us his promise to deliver unbiased commentary, even though he has relationships with both, and he said some unkind things about Cena when he turned. But this match deserves his unbiased views. So thank you for being a professional, Michael Cole. Cena is evading at the beginning. I thought his mannerisms were great. He was just looking in disgust at the fans, and then he gets tied up in the ropes, and the count is going and say, "Get off me." And he's just constantly regrouping on the floor. If you want to see the definition of simplistic offense, it was John Cena. Okay. This was like the most basic. It extended beyond the entrance into what was already categorized as a basic ring style. He has dumbed down that into just the most like clotheslines, an axe handle, the eye poke. And then Cody finally stops a 5-knuckle shuffle. And as he starts his comeback, about 10 minutes in, the place erupts with boos. And this is replacing Friday as the most negative reaction Cody has received in these 3 years. He goes for a Cody cutter, which I have not thought of this move since I saw it botched on a weekly basis. But I thought, were we going to get Cena's stunner off the ropes? Oh my God. Remember that thing?
Yeah.
I think he hit it maybe. He never hit that thing well at all.
It was his U.S. title run, and
Yes.
where he was just trying something new almost every match, and somehow loved the Os cutter enough to attempt it at least. Yeah.
Well, let me tell you, 2025 John Cena, he's not doing anything that starts with springboard. So Cena catches him and hits the first AA of the match, and it's a near fall, and Cena just laughs. He can't believe this. He knocks Cody off the buckle and hits a super AA, and Cody kicks out of that. So now Cena comes off the top and he gets caught in a power bomb. And as Cody goes for the Cody cutter, Cena's legs just like give out. The man just crumbles taking this thing. And we get a crossroads countered and he hits another AA. So that's number 3 of the match and applies the STFU. He's pulling Cody to the center, but eventually Cody is able to turn to his back, kick Cena into the corner, and takes out referee Chad Patton. And he hits the crossroads, ref is down, so Cena is able to get back to his feet, and with the ref still out, Cody's checking on him. Cena removes the turnbuckle pad, and he runs Cody twice into the exposed buckle and hits the 4th AA, which Cody manages to kick out from. So now it's time for the heavy artillery. Travis Scott comes out, and John Cena has to stare and smile at this guy for, I would guess, 5 minutes of just waiting for this guy to make it down. And Cena just looks like he's seen his first love appear, and he's just slowly walking toward the ring.
Becky?
It might be. Oh. So Cena holds up Cody for him, but Cody fights back. He hits a crossroads to Cena and then goes for the pin, and Travis Scott yanks out poor Chad Patton, who is now unconscious for a second time in 5 minutes. And Cody calls on Travis Scott to enter the ring. So Scott obliges. He comes in. He goes to throw a punch. Cody stops him, and he hits the crossroads to Travis Scott. I think every single person in this stadium was just waiting for The Rock's music to hit. And Cena grabs the belt, and it's stopped by Cody. And Cody takes possession of the belt. And Cena begs off. Please, no. And Cody, oh no. Will I go to the dark side, or am I a good man? Will I go to the dark side, or am I a good man? I mean, not since Roman Reigns 24 hours ago have we seen such rich, deep character flaws be brought to the forefront. These are the enriched characters and the conflict that consumes them at their most highest of pressure moments. Cody can't do it. He just cannot do it. So Cena kicks him in the balls and hits the belt right into Cody's face. And Cena pins him. 1, 2, 3. He wins the belt. Cole yells, 17! And Cena wins. And Cena holds up the belt. And Travis Scott comes in. And he holds up Cena's arm. And they pose. And they pose. And they pose. And the show ends.
Yeah.
That is how it ends.
That's how the weekend ends. Yeah.
Listen, the atmosphere will make up for a lot. This was not a good match. I just thought very much we had our near falls. Crowd was into it, so you can't knock it that much. But I just felt by the end of this whole thing, I don't know. Maybe this is the best you're going to get out of Cena at this stretch, but I don't know. I was not too bought in on this main event to close the show.
Yeah, I mean, I think most are going to remember this match based off of the last 5 minutes and the lack of payoff that I think everybody was hoping for at the end of this evening.
Mania's done. We can now assess like the Elimination Chamber angle, and like here we are at Mania. I'm sorry.
All of our suspicions are confirmed. Dwayne fucked them over, like big time. That's why they have not mentioned him at all in any of this build-up. Let's leave that for a discussion a little bit later on. Let's talk about just this segment.
Yeah, I want to get your thoughts on the match.
I actually enjoyed the match overall. I mean, they built to some very strong near falls. And when you have a crowd that's as invested in these two, with personalities as big as they are, with stakes as high as they are, with Cena's, record-breaking title win and Cody losing the championship at Mania, I feel like you don't need a lot of great, not a lot of action in the in-ring. You just need crowd engagement. And this certainly had that. It was interesting to see John Cena Cena's in-ring heel style and how he his I guess method in trying to differ himself from the way
it's like the most limited John Cena you've ever seen. Like that's the style, and it might be a necessity at this point. I don't think this is. I don't know if he's really. This is a.
Sure,
by choice,
but it's also not a bad thing. Like I actually thought it was somewhat successful in just like garnering the negative reaction that I think he's wanted. It's minimal, much like the entrance, isn't it? That said, though, by the end of this match, I think we all needed a little bit more than what they managed to achieve. Once that Travis Scott stuff came, if that was meant to be a prelude to the actual thing that this match was supposed to be hinged on, then I think I would have forgiven it. But the fact that the Travis Scott thing was like the big sort of like pinnacle.
Look at this closing image, and it just screams, "Where is Dwayne Johnson?" Like that's this image. That's his image. It feels like he's been photoshopped out of this, like Big E was with the New Day photo a few weeks ago.
The fact that, like, of all people, Travis Scott is like the pinnacle, like the climax of our WrestleMania this year is actually really weird. And I think
and they're probably definitely doing the tag match. I think that's very clear of Cody and a partner against these two.
It's fine. But how did we get here is, I guess, the question that I'm asking. How did we get to the point where WWE decides to book, let's call it what this is. This was a House of Style torture finish. It was a Death Rider style finish. But with Travis Scott as the backup, how did we get here? And I think it's we could say now it's a combination of Dwayne Johnson throwing his power around and just like really not being a great partner. Not being a great executive. And I think this company's growing love of mainstream crossover, just like celebrity dick sucking, that has somehow manifested itself into this particular finish that when Travis Scott got in there and did this whole like play with Cody, I thought it was so bad. He obviously is not a professional wrestler, so they have to really simplify things and work to his speed. But beyond, I think, like these photos that might be interesting to like a rap fan, seeing, oh, it's Travis Scott in there with Cody Rhodes, haha. Seeing it actually play out, it was ultimately incredibly dissatisfying and totally killed, I think, my interest in this as a legitimate main event of between two legendary professional wrestlers. And that, coupled with, I think, the disappointment of Dwayne, unfortunately, will just entirely color not just the match, but really the night. We ultimately had, I think, a great match and other things that were pretty lackluster, in a main event that was ultimately pretty disappointing.
Yeah, I mean, to me, I felt the opposite of last night, where I thought it was a pretty lackluster show that was saved by a main event. And I felt like pretty good going into the main event, that it was like, you did hit the high point first with that match. But I thought, like, overall, I was fairly satisfied with a lot of the in the middle stuff. But I'm leaving on a real sour note on this main event, that I cannot divorce this match from where we were at Elimination Chamber. That night, I was not here for that show, but just hearing the reaction that people were treating this like this was this generational turn, and it could have been. And to me, here we are after WrestleMania, so we can view the entire build and the payoff. And to me, you didn't squander the Cena heel turn that you can only do once this year, but I think it has greatly dampened it by doing it the way it was without Dwayne Johnson, with him being so part and parcel to it, and then piecing out. And on top of it, if the legacy of this is also the fact that we have now, the door is now ajar for these boos to come in for Cody. And if these continue, like I'm not saying that Cody has been compromised in this top spot, but he does come out of this where, like, you could see like these boos starting to take hold for Cody the way that this was. And I just feel this ended up being a really total complicated mess that I don't lay at the feet of Cena and Cody, who pretty much had to pick up the pieces and continue to build up a WrestleMania main event without arguably the top most important part being part of it in The Rock, who would have been, he was the difference maker last year, and he probably would have been a huge difference maker for people and their assessment of the build to WrestleMania this year if you had a coherent follow-up from Elimination Chamber. And we had nothing. Like, there was nothing following Elimination Chamber of Cody out for revenge for this beatdown of why Cena joined The Rock. You had to just drop all of that cold, and I just don't understand how this is where we get to. And The Rock can show up at some other time, but it just feels as though this
6D chess.
6D. Yeah, too many dimensions for any of us simpletons to be able to keep up with. But
So going into the match, after like seeing the reaction on SmackDown, I was actually expecting a much bigger negative Cody reaction. I was expecting full turn on Cody and full pro Cena. It actually wasn't as bad as I expected. And
during his comeback, it was pretty loud. Like when he first made the comeback, that was when I noted it was the loudest. But you're right. It wasn't as though they just it wasn't like what The Rock got against Hogan that year at Mania. For instance.
He didn't get swallowed by it, and I think in fact the way they booked the finish, and maybe this was the intent, it was so souring on John Cena that I kind of feel like that alone might have shifted the balance back towards the crowds being more pro Cody and sympathetic to Cody and negative on Cena, because I think what Cena had going for him these past few months has been just that incredible cool factor of just the idea of we're getting Hollywood John Cena now. I wonder if he's maybe lost that a little bit as a result of this sort of finish, and by contrast, has Cody maintained it? Nonetheless, Cody, I'm curious to see what this does for him. I think he ultimately is the guy to get the title back from John Cena at the end of this entire thing. What sort of evolution do we see from him now that he's in the chasing role? Because I think he does need it, like everybody does. You need to freshen things up. And what is this run for Cena going to look like? What is Travis Scott going to do?
I mean, I think he's going to wrestle at some point. I think they're making that pretty clear.
My hopes aren't that high for it, but we'll see.
All right. Well, there you go. That was WrestleMania night number 2. So we're going to take some calls now. Again, we're going to try and keep them brief. We want to get as many people on as possible, and we have some written feedback. And Way is he's got a baby to tend to as well. So let us hit the phones. All
right. Let's go here to first of all, Chris from LA. Welcome, Professor. How you doing?
What's up, y'all? How you doing?
We're good, Chris. What did you think of the show tonight?
I thought it was okay. I'm glad that I watched it from the comfort of my home and didn't go to Vegas, because I probably would have felt a little ripped off by the show itself. But it was what it was. So yeah. And my wife said she didn't know that you guys cussed. She's on the couch right now. So.
Oh, I'm sorry. Cover her ears.
Sorry, it's after midnight. It's post after dark.
Yeah.
She'll be okay.
First of all, your thoughts on the main event and just the way things played out for you.
The main event, I thought the finish was kind of whack, but I didn't expect much because I don't think the heel turn was as great as it could have been, because I was real bullish on it the night that it happened, and also because I predicted it. I just want to get that out there again.
Yes, you did.
And it just hasn't lived up to the hype, in my opinion. That's pretty much it.
And did you expect Dwayne on the show?
Nah, I didn't at all. My expectations were centered. I knew if he was going to be on this show, they probably would have been beating that drum really, really loud and consistently. And the fact that they weren't, I already resigned myself to the fact that he wasn't going to be on the show.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Professor.
Wait. I want to promote my Substack. So Think in Class with Professor Ely, and that's about it. And thank y'all for having me, and I'll let you get to the other postmarks now. Peace.
Thanks a lot, Chris.
Thank you, Professor. Listen to him every month on the NWA podcast, and I'll certainly be tuning in to hear their thoughts.
Just to give an update, and granted, this is early on Cage Match. We have 63 votes for the main event, currently clocking in at a 3.42. And this is really a tale of two shows, because it's like strong first 3 matches, and then the last 3 all below. Well, we have a 4.0 for Logan Paul AJ, 5.52 for the women's tag title, and then 3.42 for the main event.
All right, interesting. Let's go up next to Jordan. Hey, Jordan, how you doing? You are muted. There we go.
How's it going, Jordan?
Hey guys, how you doing? Way congratulations on your addition. John, your WrestleMania podcast was excellent. Just wanted to know.
Thank you.
So I just found myself underwhelmed by both nights. I think that both nights had a great card if you kind of shaved off a lot of the fat from either night. But I just feel like the main event was just really underwhelming. It just felt soulless in a way because everything throughout the whole night, you have sponsors beating you in the head, you have all the corporate synergy things, the Netflix stuff. It just feels like WWE today is in the business of making money, which is great for them. But I feel like the quality of the product kind of suffers when you're focused so much on the corporate overlord and not necessarily on the quality of what you're putting out in front of the crowd.
Did you feel there was a better balance last year? Because it seemed as though you kind of had this, it was still the TKO era, but it was also like you just had, all wrapped around Cody, but obviously a much more, I think, satisfying build and shows that you produced coming out of that weekend.
Yeah, well, I mean, last year I was actually at the show, so it definitely is a different experience, I would say. So it may not necessarily be the most fair, but I think that even with just the presentation of the product overall, last year to this year, last year it felt like they were just kind of first dipping their toe into the sponsorship kind of like matches and things like that. This year, every match, every entrance, everything had a sponsor. Like, we were just trying. My wife was with me. She's a very casual fan, and she was just kind of turned off by all of it. It just didn't really jive with her. And just trying to make sense of like the actual matches, everything was okay. Like I loved the triple threat in the beginning with the ladies, but by the time you got to AJ, Logan Paul, it just nothing really felt like you were watching WrestleMania. It just felt more like you were just kind of watching a commercial. And I just want to say The Rock, where is he? It was 2 months of this whole thing, and he was just gone, just disappeared. Just didn't make sense.
Do we know what he's actually doing?
He's in Hawaii. That's what he said.
Like, is he like actively filming something, or?
I don't know what his project schedule is. I mean, I would have gone so far as listen. If he had showed up tonight, I think
Jordan, we're gonna let you go. We're just getting some feedback on your.
Definitely appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Jordan.
Thanks, Jordan. Yeah, I was just gonna say quickly. I think I might have even been in the minority because I think if The Rock had showed up tonight, it would have just overridden everything in the lead up, and it would have been a lot more positivity coming out of the show. I still would have said, like, if The Rock is like showing up here, I still felt like you didn't capitalize off of any of this for the build. The build suffered from all of this, and I'm only doubling down on that now that you have the show over with. And like you can always pick things up later down the road, but I guess it did no favors for this show, and that is going to be a big part of people's memories of this WrestleMania. I think is the Dwayne Johnson factor that sort of is this cloud over the whole event and the promotion of it.
So even if Dwayne did show up tonight, I guess my question after that would be, how early did they know that they would have Dwayne Johnson for tonight? And even how much before tonight might they have hoped that Dwayne would have been able to clear his schedule to make one appearance for this particular match?
Just the last point is, if you had no Dwayne Johnson for this whole time, and I've said this point before, but the idea of, again, they had 4 in-ring segments between Cody and Cena. We built up generation versus generation for a year with Cena and Rock. They could have gotten by for 2 months of just, hey, it's that generation star against the current generation star. It's Cena going for his 17th title. It's Cena who has had this fictional losing streak that he is questioning. Can I do this one more time? It would be the motivation to turn here at Mania, and you do the turn to win the title at Mania, and then you're getting everyone losing their minds tonight because you did the turn at the end of this. It could be revealed later that Dwayne Johnson was secretly working with, but you're not attaching Dwayne because Dwayne was not attached to any of this. I feel like even that would have been the better play here than what turned out. But obviously, like, there were factors here that they, I'm sure, navigated. But you got an unbelievable angle, but I don't think it's going to be remembered as this all-time classic angle. Like that night when people were comparing it to Hogan's turn in the NWO, I don't think this Cena turn will be remembered like that, because the follow-up was just so disappointing, and I feel like it's not going to have that same kind of sustainability.
So If you had Dwayne Johnson available for the dates that he ended up showing up between the SmackDowns and Elimination Chamber, would you have opted to say no?
No, I would have simply had the same dates, but it would have ended with Cody, and this wouldn't have been the show closer, but Cody turns him down, lays him out with the crossroads, and Dwayne disappears. Dwayne is now, you know that you have turned down Dwayne Johnson, this all-powerful
Why
figure.
would there be a Okay. So you would still do the offer, but you would just have him turn him down.
I would do everything the same. Cody turns him down, and that's going to come back to hurt Cody at a later date when we have The Rock again. But we don't have him for any more dates, so I'm not going to shoot an angle now that has no payoff date in mind, especially with Cena at this point. I would have ridden this out. You do the turn, you do it tonight. I think it would have been way more effective to do it tonight.
Let's go up next to Andy B. Welcome to the show, Andy.
Hi guys, how are you doing? Congrats, Way, on the birth of the child.
Thank you, Andy. Thank you.
Guys, just a little underwhelmed with the show. I thought the first 3 matches were quite fun, but from there, bit of a steady decline downhill. I don't know. I think the first program for the Cena heel run hasn't gone particularly well, but he has some nice opponents lined up from CM Punk, Randy Orton, maybe Bron Breakker or whoever else. So hopefully he can still salvage it. Do you guys think it's beyond the point of no return yet?
Is this about the Cena turn?
Yeah. The whatever they have laid out for the rest of the run.
I don't think it's at. If we compare this to the level it came out of, I think there were a lot of fumbling. I don't think Cena in a heel role is like beyond repair or anything like that. I think he'll be fine in this role. I think it's something for Cody to chase. And there's all these matches that you can do with Cena. I'm curious if they do like the Cena Orton deal in a couple of weeks in St. Louis. You could easily do that. That's one option to go. I do think it's going to be very tough for Cena to be in these main events, though, based on what opponents he has. There is a higher expectation level, and I watched tonight, and I don't think he can perform at that main event level. This is all going to be off of atmosphere and charisma and working off of your opponent to try and convey that main event level, because I think the audience does have a certain expectation level.
So I think even in the limited, or if you want to call it limited style that we saw tonight from Cena, I feel like that's enough. To me, if the finish was better tonight, I think our opinions about the match would be a lot better. We also have proof that Cena in the chamber match with Punk, was great. I thought he looked great against CM Punk, didn't he? So I'm confident that if he wanted to, he could actually work a style. But as a heel, I think there's intention to maybe be a bit more of a, strike and kick and punch type of wrestler. Thank you, Andy, for the call. Let's go up next to Hansi. Hey, Hansi, what's up?
Hey, what's going on, man? With the call, congratulations, Way.
Thanks, man. Thank you.
I don't blame you for not remembering this, but for some reason I remembered it. The last 4-way for IC title match was WrestleMania 15 between Road Dogg, Shamrock, Val Venus, and Goldust. So clearly the best 4-way match ever. I don't know. I thought
was it fatal though? Okay.
All I remember from that was that Billy Gunn was supposed to be the IC title guy and Road Dogg was a hardcore title guy. And for some reason, a week or two before that Mania, they gave Road Dogg the IC title and they gave Billy Gunn the hardcore title. I just thought that Mania was kind of weak anyways. But I the same sentiments I have. I thought yesterday's show, I wasn't down on some of the main matches I liked from night one were Knight and Jacob and Gable and Phoenix. I'm not saying that they're great. I don't. By the way, you guys said in the before Mania week started, would anything top Ospreay and Takashita? I don't really think it did on any of the WWE shows. Maybe NXT, you may have gotten something, but I don't think anything topped Takashita and Will Ospreay from this past week's Dynamite. But I did like, the main. My favorite match of the whole weekend, from WWE at least, was the main event of night one. I thought that kind of saved it for me. I wasn't down on I don't know. Maybe if the creator for the women were better, maybe there would be an argument for them to main event night 2. Because I don't think that Cena versus Cody, the quality with the way you're doing stuff. And I'm someone that's like, hey man, The Rock might show up sometime, whatever. I gotta say, yeah, it's getting kind of annoying now that it's not happening. So that kind of took away from it. I did enjoy the environment. I know I want to ask you guys a couple of questions, but overall, I thought it was a decent weekend. I wouldn't say it was the best Mania. Maybe in a previous era, these would probably be high quality Manias. Because there's like not much like reliance on like the work rate and all that. I find myself enjoying the AEW shows better, but with the Jey Uso thing, I like the moment. People are down on the quick tap, and I understand why. If I can see the overall story, I'm hoping that this is a Gunther's way of becoming a babyface, and I am hoping it elevates Ludwig, because I think what you can extract from that is Ludwig not respecting Gunther for tapping out quickly, and maybe showing respect to Jey Uso later on or something like that. And I think like you can have Gunther make Ludwig in a nice feud or something like that. I don't know, they might want to run it back. But do you guys, with the angle that played out with Seth Rollins and all that, do you guys think that they would opt, because he does feel like the harder act out of everyone from Raw, basically? Do you think they would probably give him the title back? Like, how long do you guys think a Jey Uso title reign is going to last? Like, do you think this is going to be like a transitional reign, or do you guys think that they will actually, because I'm not looking forward to, between Cena and Jey, I'm looking forward to the work rate in some of these title matches. But I can't hate on Jey. I am glad he got it, but I don't think he will have the title long. So I'll leave you guys with that. I've enjoyed the Mania coverage. I didn't get to watch a lot of shows outside WWE. So I'm thankful for that you guys recapped a bunch of stuff so I can go and look at some highlights later on, man. So I appreciate you guys, man. Peace out.
Thanks,
Ozzy.
I wouldn't. I'm never a fan of a title reign begins and you have like an end date in mind. Like, Jay's been a really hot character, and I would want to ride this and see how he, like, whenever you put a title, especially on a guy for the first time, you want to see how the audience takes them in that top position and what comes out of it. Like, he could be on a great run where it's not just the be all end all about this guy having, the best bell to bell match. Like, he's been a really compelling character over this last year, even beyond that. His promos to me have been top level, and I would not want him to just have a quick 1 month title reign. I think after a big win at a Mania, you want to at least give it some legs, and if it works, it works, and if not, then you pivot. But I wouldn't want to have that end date already etched in stone before he's even, walked out once as champion.
Yeah. At the same time, it's hard for me to see Jay keeping the championship through SummerSlam. That's a pretty substantial reign, I think, already for him. But I don't really see it at the moment. But things can change depending on how much he takes off as a champion. I think I'm very curious to see who they pair him up against, whether or not they can elevate his status a little bit more with high quality opponents. When you think about like the heels on the Raw side of things, who comes to mind for you? Obviously Seth Rollins now. Like, with a Rollins with Heyman up against a Jey Uso is very interesting. There's a lot of history there, a lot of connector, or just, with Heyman and Jey, of course. Who are the other big names?
To me, what comes to mind is something big with Sami Zayn. Like, that's been
Jay.
When Zayn's ready to come back. Like, that's been his big focus, is winning the championship again. Mm-hmm. And I think there's a lot that you could do with those two.
But Seth is also incredibly hot right now. So if he's going to drop the title to anybody, I could see it being to him. So I still think they have some challenges. Like, in ring, Jay hasn't fully proven himself.
It was an underwhelming match on the first night. Like, for a big title match, I thought it was very underwhelming, and that is that's an aspect. Like, not everything is just just contingent on a tremendous entrance and even a guy who's great on promos. Like, there was a time that that would override everything, but you do have very a high expectation level when you're placed in these spots.
Like with many babyface WrestleMania wins, like you think back to Benoit, you think back to like Kofi Mania, they make for great moments the night of, but will they truly be face of the company? Will they truly be champion? I mean, that remains to be seen. All right, let's go up next to Alex Francois. Hey, Alex, what's up?
Hey guys, how you doing?
Hey,
Awesome. Well, congrats away, just to throw it in like everyone else has.
thank you.
And
Thanks, man.
thanks for all the coverage this week, John. Been awesome. Just a couple of dead quick things. One's a personal anecdote watching the show tonight, and the other's a quick question. With the Joe Hendry thing, I actually know Joe a little bit from when I was living in Edinburgh. He worked with our company, the indie scene. We're not friends, but enough to we'd chat in the street if we saw each other. So I was not expecting that music to hit. I was expecting Rusev from the rumors and things. So that was just an insane moment. Because like you say, everyone finds everything different. So I thought that might be a little bit of interest to you guys. I would literally shout, "Oh my God," about 5 times. And my wife got out of bed and was like, "What is happening?" Yeah, so that was that. And the
Cool.
other is just the WrestleMania week as a whole, maybe more for John, this one. Do you feel the buzz has been as big around the sort of the non-WWE events as it has been in other years? Because personally, I haven't seen as many, like viral clips, like, when Orange Cassidy was everywhere that year and Will Ospreay was doing crazy matches every day. Just what your thoughts on the week of a whole was. But yeah, thanks guys. I'll let you get on. I don't know, you got a busy one.
Thanks a lot, Alex. I certainly feel like it's certainly not at peak years when you're talking about the non-WWE stuff. And I think it's a combination of a lot of things. It's the fact that with WWE as big as it is now and so much that they have encompassed over Mania weekend, as well as a time that just this is the reality of having two big companies that have signed up a lot of the biggest unsigned stars, that there's less to go around to populate many of these shows with stars at that level. I think that spring break, GCW gave out the figure that they did about 2,000 people, which I would take that to be like, that's your high point of what you're looking for a non-Mania or a non-WWE event Mania weekend. A couple of the collective shows did over 1,000, but that's the level you're looking at. And there were some very good lineups, and they were like well under 1,000 people. So I think it's certainly reduced from your peak years going back several, like even pre-pandemic. And it's less stars on the independents, and there's also a lot less time. If you're a fan that's coming in here, WWE keeps you pretty occupied with a lot of what they're putting on the schedule, and you're going to have less of the success stories like a spring break or a blood sport each year. And even that, like it's a relative amount that you are drawing.
Let's go to Muggin. Hey, Muggin.
First off, I just want to say congratulations away on baby number 2.
Thank you. Thanks, man.
Anyways, Hurricane Dwayne swept, several months ago, Hurricane Dwayne swept through WWE like a trailer park, leaving nothing but carnage in his wake. That's my feelings on the main event tonight.
Yeah.
I mean, it would have had more of a punch if he was there instead of Travis Scott, because Travis stood out like a sore thumb.
Hmm.
I mean, the execution was there. I mean, Cena going over was the way to go, because Cody's a lot more effective and was a lot more effective on the chase. So I do think the end game will be the rematch between them.
Yeah, honestly, come to think of it, I really do even want to question their I don't know, their logic in just having Travis Scott out there as like the heavy for John Cena without anybody else. Even if The Rock wasn't there, that they have to know that visual looks really, really odd,
Yeah.
and just really kind of kills. Like,
It also
any
set
sort of
the
immersion.
expectation level that much higher for Dwayne Johnson once you're introducing Travis Scott. I mean, I think it was just a natural. Everyone assumed like you are building up to the arrival at the end as the climax.
But Cody did get his receipt, so there's that too. It was, he did get his receipt.
Yeah,
But
it was a
anyway,
shoot Crossroads.
yes, and look, but I mean, I'm not. Even though I'm down on the main event and how it ended and how it played out, there's still a lot to like about both nights, because even though the pacing died off after the opener, which was phenomenal. I mean, Io Sky was tremendous, and I certainly popped seeing Rhea Ripley be the Batman who laughs.
Yeah, somebody in the comments or in our feedback has some explanation of that. I did not catch the reference, but cool.
As soon as I saw the crown, as soon as I saw Rhea's crown with the spikes, immediately came to mind. She was like a great Capullo page come to life. It's tremendous.
Who did better, Rhea or Swerve as Static Shock?
No, Rhea takes this one, no question.
Okay, all right.
No question. What else? Overall,
one more quick thought from you, Muggin, before we get to our feedback. We have a lot of it. So
okay. I thought it was real cool to have Joe Hendry show up to save Randy Orton's match, and I'm sure WWE is going to throw him a bone because Ethan Page is going to be on Rebellion on next Sunday, so I'm sure I think they're going to pay him back for stepping up.
Was that a fair trade?
I guess.
Maybe Randy Orton's going to show up. It's going to be a 4-way, and Joe Hendry is going to pin Randy Orton, and then he's going to let Randy Orton stand up, and he's going to give him another standing ovation and leave him laying at the end of Rebellion in the Galen Center. I think that's how this will work out for sure.
But overall, it was a decent weekend. But to me, for the first time in a long time, NXT has eclipsed WrestleMania because Stand Deliver was top notch. That triple with Oba, Javon, and Trick was fantastic, and of course, Punk Rollins and Reigns was excellent as well.
All right, thanks a lot, Muggin.
Thank you, Muggin. Appreciate it. Full review of Stand and Deliver up right now on our free feed from our friends at Up Next, of course. Let's go to forum.postwrestling.com where all of our Patreon patrons can leave written feedback to all of our shows. Care to start us off, John?
Yes, Jurassic Park fan. Absolutely scintillating, high-energy opener that was as great as I was hoping, continuing to tell the story of Bianca and Rhea, overlooking Io, and Bianca being the power wrestler, Rhea showing her brutality. Reminded me of the Lesnar-Cena-Seth match at the 2015 Royal Rumble. Other matches have been better than average and fun, in my opinion. The Joe Hendry surprise was great, as I was expecting Sami Zayn or Rusev. I was also expecting Becky to be Lyra's tag partner. Match was okay, but this match already had an uphill battle because of it coming together late. Cody versus Cena was a solid match at a decent pace that told you who Cena was and is and won through nefarious means, probably like he should have. Travis Scott's appearance was pretty lame, though. The reception to Cody in the crowd was also pretty interesting. Overall, I think slightly better than last night with a much better match quality average. He gives this 7.5 out of 10.
Let's go up next to Nick Lenz, who says the outfit that Rhea Ripley came out as was a DC villain. The Batman Who Laughs, created by Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo in Dark Knight Metal in 2019. Yeah, Io winning was the right call on WWE's part. I know you had that in your notes, John, that you just
I was waiting for you to point it out. I wasn't going to just spoon feed it to you.
Of course.
Brian from New Jersey. I thought tonight's card was stronger than last night's, but I found the main event pretty underwhelming with a drawn-out finish that made Cody look really stupid. I'm hoping the follow-up is more interesting. On the positive side, I thought Sky, Belair, Ripley was the best match of either night and the best WrestleMania women's match since Charlotte and Ripley 2 years ago. I also thought the four-way was a lot of fun with perhaps the right winner, and Joe Hendry's appearance was positive overall. Curious to hear how that woman that got hit by Austin's four-wheeler's doing. I like to think of it as karma crashing into WWE for various scumbags shown in the crowd. Thanks again to Post for the coverage this week. Oh, yes. Hopefully the person is okay.
Let's go to Brian, who says, matches and results aside, any thoughts on the lack of big WrestleMania entrances? A few had some extra stuff, but for the most part, most seemed wildly lacking. Is this a TKO thing trying to be more realistic?
I don't know. I thought that there were some pretty big entrances throughout both nights. Yeah. I don't know. To me, this was at par with like past WrestleManias where it's not like everyone gets one, but they had several like big choreographed entrances that I thought, I thought this was like right at the level of most Manias.
Yeah. Did you have a favorite one over the weekend?
Of both.
I loved Roman's. Like just him coming out in these pillars with like the faces of like
that one was cool.
Ancestors walking behind him.
Punk's was really great, I thought, with Living Color and the video beforehand. I would say that was probably my favorite one. But Roman I like too, just like the simplicity of it with and utilizing that with the Anawahis. Yeah,
and those abs, of course.
Yes. Yeah. Didn't get a wardrobe change though, like Seth Rollins. So,
well.
Let us continue. We got a live one here from Jeremy in Texas. He is leaving the show. Want to leave a few thoughts. Night 2 was better than night 1, easily. The first 4 matches were great. Opener for the women's title was such a contrast. 3 women who can work together, put on a great match instead of what we got last night. Crowd loved Dominik, and they loved the Joe Hendry surprise. The main event was what it was. The result, fine. But did we really need Travis Scott to get us there? Cody hesitating, hitting Cena with the title, went with the story, but the finish fell flat. No Dwayne was a surprise to me as well. And yes, he included a photo here of your 2 triumphant winners of WrestleMania, John Cena and Travis Scott, in the middle of this ring.
So, like, it feels like Travis Scott is a bit of a common denominator in some of this negative feedback. And I mean, obviously, in wrestling, you can always interpret any sort of negative reaction as a positive if you're a heel. I don't know if this is that. I saw some of the same sentiment for the Chamber thing. Why is Travis Scott there? That I was able to excuse a lot more. He was just a sidekick to The Rock, somebody who didn't really do anything. He got a punch in on Cody because the other people were there to allow him to get a punch. Here, he was the lone feature in like the climax of the main event of WrestleMania, and that just felt very, very unusual and unsatisfying for me. Let's go to Alex from Portland, who says, I watched tonight with my girlfriend who hasn't watched wrestling before. She enjoyed the triple threat and the IC matches the most. She liked Penta and Bianca. She really didn't like Balor or Breaker. She didn't know who Logan Paul was, and she was appalled that Cena spent all of his career wearing jorts. She liked Cody's pants but hated his and Cena's haircuts. Good analysis. I don't care much to see Becky back. Bayley being thrown off the card feels so dirty. I just like how Bayley and Lyra destroyed the women's tag division on TV, but that we won't see them tag again. The main event ref bump was one of the stupidest I've seen. That match had no benefit with Travis Scott's involvement. Okay.
Maybe we're gonna get one positive Travis Scott feedback by the end of the night. Like, I thought that was so great. What a crossover. Saeed from Vancouver, night 2 is easily better than the first. For me, the match of the night was the triple threat with the women. Congrats to Dirty Dom on the win. Cena told us he was going to ruin wrestling, and that match was, going to be an interesting Raw after Mania. First, well, there we go. Okay, he's talking about the predictions that were made as well. So, yes.
All right, let's go lastly to Matt in Oberlin, who says, when something like Dark Side of the Ring covers a story that the hardcore wrestling fan knows well, and we all still watch it and say, well, it really wasn't made for us, but it was still interesting. That's how I felt about this show. So I guess Matt feeling like the show was made for a fan other than himself. Can you understand that? Do you feel that way?
I understand the balance that you're trying to strike, but I mean, at the end of it, I think that there's always a way that you can satisfy varying levels of people's fandom, whether you're just swooping in for watching the show once a year, or if you're someone that's been following the whole build up to this.
The Netflix debut, Raw, felt very much like that to me, where like it, despite the fact that they were giving us culminations of several storylines, it just, the way the show played out really did feel like they were, like the storylines were the least important things of the entire night. And instead it was celebrity, it was all this other bullshit. I didn't really feel that about tonight's show, other than maybe the Travis Scott stuff. I think for me, I was just ultimately not that satisfied by a majority of tonight's card.
Yeah, that's where it comes to. I think you can take a lot of high points from the 2 nights. I think if you put them all together, what we were getting before were these like bloated cards that were fitting all these people on, and that's another level of negativity. Not one person is complaining about the length of either night show, even though we just watched 8 hours of wrestling, but spread over 2 nights, totally like I didn't sense that kind of drag, and that was not reflected in anyone's criticism of the show. So I think the 2 night, it works, but in this case, it was sort of a show that was kind of middling throughout and had a great main event on night 1, and this great start to the show, and kind of petered out, and it's left to what your feeling was by the end of the main event, which seems more down than up.
And a lot of money being made.
Well, at the end of the day, they took in probably a conservative figure would be like $40 to $45 million just in ticket revenue. So you know what? I'm sure WWE will be scanning forum.postwrestling.com and crying tears with their with their frothy bills that people.
Is Mark Shapiro on Cage Match right now?
Yeah, I'm sure he is in the comment section right now. That's writing, come on, it's not that bad. So yes, I always love the back and forth. So do we have one more callway at the bottom here?
No, this is
Okay.
somebody who already called.
All right.
Actually, let's close things off here because actually our technical producer Simon actually has some thoughts he wanted to give on tonight's show. So I think this might be the first time. Simon, who's done a great job manning the board. Do you have any thoughts on tonight's show?
Hello, gents. How are we doing? Great show as always.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. It's just a really quick thought on the main event. My dad, he is not a big wrestling fan, and begrudgingly, I talk to him almost all day about it.
Is he a Travis Scott fan?
No, he is not. But he kind of knows like the story going in, and he's not with me right now. But he was kind of texting me throughout the main event of the show, and I thought it was kind of funny because he was like, I was reading out some of the texts he sent me. He says, "Why is John Cena balding and so slow?" Was his first text. I said, "I don't know. I think that's just age." And then he was talking, and yeah, and then he was like, "Who TF?" But he didn't say TF. Is this guy in reference to Travis Scott? And I just like, this guy is kind of with the
His
John
new favorite
Cena.
artist.
This is exactly. He's a big country music guy, so I'll have to put him on some Travis Scott soon. And then his last comment to me was, "That was it. That was super lame." So I think that just kind of goes to show, even to like we're diehards here, like we're talking about this, like we're kind of all in it. We know the story going in, but I think even that just shows to, even the casual fans or the lapsed fans who are just maybe checking this out on Netflix, even to them, that may have seemed a little bit off. And I think that kind of is a thread. Like I think the first triple threat match, the women's championship match was definitely by far the highlight of the show for me, at least. But I think if you kind of go through the whole thing, it's just kind of like you said, unsatisfying, underwhelming. And I think even to people who don't watch wrestling consistently, they can kind of tell the difference between, something that's really good in the opening match and something that's very underwhelming and kind of the rest of the matches. So like I said, they made money, but I don't know how much interest and how much, retention they're going to get from all this.
Yeah, and that's like our closing point here is as well, like the level of like markets they've now opened up with Netflix, like internationally, how many people might have just been following along for this Mania cycle, or this was the first time they have sat down and watched a WrestleMania. Is this enough that this really hooks them? Is this still novel just to see the large presentation of it? Like this was important in that sense about, for a lot of this boom, it's been Cody Rhodes that they have been coming, that has created a lot of new or returning WWE fans, and it climaxed with last year's title win, and now you're going a different direction. There is a risk there. Like Cody has been their top guy, and are people like invested in this story following it, of like coming out of this main event? So we will see. We will see in the days, weeks, and months to come. But thank you very much, Simon, for chiming in, and your dad. We'll now have to search some Travis Scott.
I was just gonna say, I'm just going to just send him a bunch of his albums, and I'm sure he's gonna love them. So yeah, thanks for having me on, gents.
And thank you,
all right,
Simon,
well, we
for
are
all your work.
Going to be signing off now. So I want to thank everybody for joining us tonight for our review of Night 2 of WrestleMania. Wei, what is in your limited schedule? You will be returning at a date in the future. Unlike Dwayne Johnson, we know what your dates are, and we know many steps ahead, and do have a plan for your return.
I will be the Travis Scott in this situation. Okay, I will be making an appearance here, and I will return for the big climax. You guys are in more than good hands. John, I just again want to thank you for the incredible amount of planning and work that you put into the biggest weekend in our particular coverage, and of course the entire team that has really stepped out in a big way. Anytime one of us is not there, Post Wrestling is in more than great hands. So I'm going to be taking a couple more weeks off to enjoy my time with my new baby, and to obviously help out around the house. So I'll be listening and I'll be checking in, but I'll be returning end of the month.
Well, we were honored to have you take some time out to join us tonight to chat about this show, and a congratulations on behalf of everybody to you, your whole family. I will be back.
Thank you for the cookies, by the way.
Oh, were they good?
Lovely. They're excellent. They're fantastic.
Monday night, it's the Raw after WrestleMania, and I am going to be joined by the nefarious one himself, Nate Milton. So we will be chatting Raw after Mania. You know, the last time that one of us was away, Nate jumped on just hours after the Elimination Chamber, I believe.
Yes,
was he not on with you that very night?
Oh, yeah.
So we will get a whole look at this build, and Nate can process. Maybe we'll go back and pull a clip of Nate's reaction right after the Elimination Chamber and see if it was parallel to his response after the main event of Night 2 of WrestleMania. So that is coming up on Monday.
Who better to break down Dwayne Johnson's 4D chess plan than, Mr. Rocky Maivia Picture Show himself? So Brother Nate's very active in the chat room today, so I look forward to hearing your thoughts and his thoughts tomorrow night.
That is Monday night, so do head over. We go live every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at postwrestlingcafe.com. $6 gets you 30 days access and the ability to listen to the Raw, Dynamite, and SmackDown reviews live, which include the exclusive features, including the news of the week. We put them up ad-free for you, and of course, taking your feedback as well. And also coming up this week, I'm going to be doing book club with Neil Flanagan and a special double shot, as I have gotten some requests. I'm going to take a look at both the WWE Hall of Fame ceremony and the WrestleMania 9 documentary that just dropped. So that will be out this week for people to scan and check out on the cafe.
Jealous almost. Yes, and I was also going to mention something else, but we'll save it for later. We have enough.
Okay, you're not resigning or anything, are you?
No. It was just something to plug that completely left my mind.
Okay. Well, thank you to Simon. Thank you to all of you.
Sorry, super chat. Very, very quickly here.
Oh.
Nick Carter himself. Have to own up. I was wrong about the Cena heel turn. Should have saved it. That match was just off. Not the crowd's fault.
That's my thought.
Very much.
That's my thought at the end of all of this, Nick. So we're in agreement. All right. Thanks to everyone. Thanks to everyone on the site, and for anyone that checked out a little, all, or somewhere in between of our WrestleMania week coverage. Thank you very much for keeping the site going. We're back in 24 hours to chat the Raw after WrestleMania. Good night.